All right, Thursday night, Dieter's in the house. We always have some of our best streams of the week with Dieter here on a Thursday night. Thursday night is just a great night to stream. Great night to stream. We're going to talk a lot of Niners. Purdy's contract is done. Dieter's got a take. We want to hear from you. Let's go. It's the Krueger Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. Off and running Thursday night. Pig and a Pickle brings you the Krueger Show, sponsored by Pig and a Pickle. I guess that makes sense. Check them out. Emeryville, Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. But don't show up at 7:45 saying, hey, I want this, I want that, and acting like you own the place, because they run out. It's a real barbecue place. So real barbecue places, sometimes they got leftovers. That sucks for the owner. Sometimes they have they sell out. And sometimes they sell out way early because somebody walks in and says, hey, by the way, we're feeding the firehouse tonight, and give us 75 pounds of brisket or something.
Is that code for the Krueger household?
Yeah.
The firehouse.
No. Yeah, we're feeding the fire department. Feeding the fire department. But Pig and a Pickle, the title sponsor of the Krueger Show. Thank you to Damon and Mary for being proud sponsors of the Krueger Show. We're also brought to you by LearnKey Upskill Academy. And you've heard me talk about them as well. LearnKey Upskill Academy. The show is sponsored by them. They're an online learning platform designed to get you job ready in 6 months or less. And it doesn't matter if you're interested in IT, cybersecurity, marketing. It could be a number of high demand fields. They offer 30 certification programs to help you take that next step in your professional career. They have flexible online learning, industry-recognized certifications. You can build skills employers are actually looking for, all with the support of a United States-based student assistance program. So don't wait to invest in your future. Invest today. Click in the link in the description of this live stream and visit upskill.learnkey.com to get started today. And we're also brought to you by Clawdaddy Arcades. We don't just want to help you get more skilled. We want to help entertain you as well. Clawdaddy Arcades has been sponsoring the Krueger Show since March, and we love them. 3 locations down in Southern California, spots in Fresno and Modesto. And they got a brand new spot coming in the Bay Area. So Clawdaddy Arcades, they're bringing family-friendly entertainment to Northern California. He's a great follow on Instagram, at Claw_Daddy_Arcades, to find a location near you. And thanks to Clawdaddy Arcades for sponsoring the Krueger Show.
Yes,
all right. Dieter, good to see you, man. I didn't see you yesterday in Santa Clara. I thought I would, but I did read your reaction. Yeah. For those who didn't, Dieter did a whole column today for the San Jose Mercury News breaking down the Brock Purdy deal from a number of different angles. And, you like this deal. You think this is a win for, well, I won't put words in your mouth, but tell us what you think.
I just don't know how anybody could possibly complain about this. I think it's a huge win for the 49ers. I think there's a lot of wins for Brock Purdy in this. We can get into that a little bit later. And I think it's a win for the fan base in that he's not going to have to be chasing this abstract concept of what a quarterback should or shouldn't be paid. He's on the team-friendly deal, right? At least as it pertains to the cap. I just feel like everybody got what they needed out of this thing, and we're probably going to be doing it again in a year or two. But so what? Like they nailed this thing across the board. The Niners figured out a bunch of different ways to lower the cap number, which is huge, while still giving Brock something close to market rate as a quarterback. Brock got a couple of opportunities to kind of stick it to the Niners and saying, hey, you got to make some guarantees by this date. Otherwise, you're going to have to pay me this. So he got a 2 + 2, which is a pretty interesting structure. But it gives him a lot of job security. If he's playing well, it's very difficult to get rid of him. But at the same time, of course, if he's playing very, very poorly, he won't be the only guy to go. But the Niners could move on from him after 2 years. And again, with the fan base, particularly in the sort of fan base that wants to get online and start fighting with other people and other fan bases, like, would you rather have this contract or what they're paying Trevor Lawrence or Jordan Love or Tua or Jared Goff? This is very team friendly. I think it is very cognizant from Brock Purdy's perspective of where he sits in the quarterback hierarchy and kind of what that means. And I think that, some of the concessions that he made are, I don't think there's any true thing as altruism, but, they're going to look good upon him and sort of his brand, his character. Again, it's just excellent work. And maybe the biggest thing of all of this, Larry, it's May 22nd. This deal's been done since last Friday. They got their business done. I don't agree with all of their business. In fact, I disagree with a lot of their business this past offseason. But you can't argue with the expediency of handling Kittle, Purdy, and now Warner, the 3 contracts that you absolutely had to get done. It's all done by May 22nd. Last year, they started doing business on June 4th with Christian McCaffrey. Like, outstanding work all around. And I'd like to think the Niners learned their lesson here to not procrastinate on this, because getting in early is worth the cost.
$400 million in contracts, $400+ million in contracts for the 3 guys, Warner, Purdy, Kittle, and $277 million in bonuses.
Yeah.
So that's pretty fat.
If you're wondering why they had to cut cash this past offseason, that's why. That baby has to go in escrow.
That's a lot of cash outlay right there. I mean,
that's
300 million. How many people do you know? How many people do you know that can come up with $300 million in cash today?
Well, I know Jed York can, because he sold 6% of the team to get cash.
But could he have without selling 6% of the team?
He probably could have. Probably could have, but that's a lot easier.
It's a lot of that's maybe a lot of liquidating of things and penalties and who knows.
Yeah.
I'll say this:
I like interest rate.
I like this move. I mean, first of all, it's the only quarterback deal that I can think of that's very not punitive up front. Usually these deals are somewhat punitive immediately. Oh, it's bad for a year. Oh, it's bad for the first 3 years. Oh, it's a little painful up front. Oh, there has to be a major bloodletting. And the Niners did say goodbye to a lot of people, but the core of their roster is still intact. Purdy's cap hit only rises $3.77 million.
Right.
It's structured so that Bosa and Ayuk and their veterans, that they can have this kind of these stars on the roster right now. And then you got huge amounts of money coming in option bonuses that are obviously pro-ratable over the length of the contract, and also you can manipulate that and move that around. There's a lot of flexibility with that.
Right.
And then they have outs with these guaranteeing, this guarantee vesting deadline, April 1st, 26, 27, 28.
Right.
They're protected. I mean, if this guy's not awesome, they've got the escape hatch. It's not like a Kyler Murray or something where you're just wed to the guy. And it's, there's not a big initial risk. It's a big commitment, to Brock. So it's a true, commitment to the guy. So he's a big winner there. Mm-hmm. But, when you look at some of these other deals for like Deshaun Watson or Herbert, Joe Burrow, I mean, and the percentage of the cap at signing, usually initially is very, very punitive. For the Niners, it's 14% in year 1, 18% in the first 3 years. That's very, very reasonable. And it's a unique structure. I mean, I don't want to say it's magic, but I mean, They got Brock his money largely in the first 3 years. He gets, over $150 million of it in the first 3 years. Mm-hmm. But it also is not, and it gives them flexibility, in that third and fourth year, or the back end 3, 4, 5.
Right.
But it also isn't, just killing them up front. No. So it's like he got his money up front, but they're still have a reason. When you factor in the investment of the outside money in the franchise, right, you can make an argument that no owner has ever had a less painful extension of a quarterback under the modern NFL salary structure than what Jed York just went through with Brock Purdy. Jed's hardly going to feel it at all.
Jed's not going to feel it, but to be fair, some of that's by design, right? With the bloodletting that they had to do this past offseason, I do think some of that was maybe more than initially prescribed or necessary, because the budget is the budget, and Jed has a certain cash outlay that he wants to go to every year, and they're going to bump up on it with all these new contracts and the escrow and things. So I do think they had to overdo it there a little bit. Guys like Leonard Floyd, like why are you getting rid of Leonard Floyd? Why are you taking a $10 million dead cap hit so that you can save $8 million? Like, that feels like
I just thought that he was jettisoned because of his tape.
No,
I mean, he got sacks. He got sacks, but he didn't have great tape. I mean, he fooled people.
When you have a
he fooled people and just didn't beat people.
He didn't fool me, and he definitely didn't beat
you were
me.
not a fan.
But at the same time, when you don't have depth at that position, that one could have gone 50-50. Like, I don't have a problem with anybody that they got rid of. But at a certain point, cumulatively, it was like, okay, but you have to replace them. They didn't go out and get anybody to replace them until the draft, and now you're relying on a lot of rookies. That's neither here nor there. We've talked about that a million times over. Here's the numbers, and this is why this contract is so clever by the Niners. They're going to pay Brock Purdy about $44 million a year in the first 4 years on average, okay, with all of the bonuses and all that. About $44 million a year in the first 4 years, which is effectively the length of the contract. That's the real active number on the contract. I know it's 5 years and technically 6 because it's an extension and $265 million. That's all bullshit. It's complete bullshit. This is a 3-year extension in effect that is actionable. It would be shocking if they got to a 5th year without any changes. If they got to a 2nd year, 2029 in this case specifically, and the $72 million cap hit. It's probably going to get restructured, rebuilt after 2 years if he plays just well enough. But again, to the number, they're going to pay him in the first 4 years an average of $44 million a year. So not even in the 50s. His cap number on average will be 30. So they're going to be able to get Brock his cash while it not counting against them on the books. And yes, there will be a big dead cap hit should they want to get off this thing. But they could also just run it back after 2 years, after 3 years, after 4 years. They can restructure the whole damn thing again, because this is the part that seems to get lost in the conversation about Brock Purdy. Oh, is he good? Is he not? He's 26 years old with 3 seasons under his belt. Like, the idea that he's some sort of a finished product, it might be true. That could come to pass. I'm not saying that he's got, some superhuman ceiling that can still be reached. But the idea that he's a finished product and is not somewhat of still a work in progress feels a bit aggressive to me. You just signed a 26-year-old quarterback to what is, in effect, a prove-it contract. You're going to get him at a cap number that if you can't work around $30 million, you're not good at your job as a GM, as a director of pro personnel. If you can't handle a quarterback making 30 on the cap, you're not good at your job. I know that it was a lot easier when he was making 1, but 30 is totally reasonable for a quarterback. In fact, it's beyond reasonable. It's extremely team friendly. And at the same time, again, he's getting the money that he needs, so he's not taking the kind of haircut to where he feels like, hey, I got to get back to the negotiating table because I'm getting underpaid here, just like I was before. And now you got this animosity brewing and kind of turns into a Russ Wilson situation, and it just kind of blows up in everybody's face. I think after 26, they'll probably restructure it. You mentioned the April 1 thing. That is a classic Parag move. They did it with Colin Kaepernick. Obviously, we just went through the same deal with Brandon Ayuk. This one's a little trickier. So if he's on the roster on April 1 of 2026, the 27 money becomes guaranteed. 27, 28, and it tuckers out a little bit after that. So it is in effect like a 2-year option on top of what is in effect a 2-year deal, which, yeah, there would be some real headaches if you wanted to get out after 2 years. But hey, I got great news for everybody. If you want to get out of this deal after 2 years, everybody's going with Brock. You're not just cutting Brock. You're cutting John. You're cutting Kyle. You're cutting everybody, and you're getting a rookie quarterback and a brand new head coach and a brand new GM. So very cleansing in that process. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think that Brock is definitely going to live up to this contract. But it is laughable to me that last Friday there were a bunch of people, and I know you're not one of them, Larry, who were coming out here saying, oh my God, he was so overpaid. That's ridiculous. I can't believe it. $265 million. And it's like, dude, that is just a funny number that they throw out there to make everybody on the agency side look good. They won't even come within $100 million of that mark in those 4 years. And ultimately, Brock is going to cost $30 million on average against the cap. As bad as it can get in the first 4 years is $57 million. That's as bad as it could possibly get. We're going 9, 24, 30, and 57. And that's if the 49ers do nothing, don't renegotiate a thing. That's as bad as it can get. And then it's a pretty easy exit from there. This is a great deal for the Niners. It's a great deal for Purdy because he's going to get opportunities to say, hey, let's go back to the table. Let's talk about this thing. Let's get another contract in there. Let's extend this bad boy. And again, I do think this is kind of the underrated part. It's great for the fan base because now we don't have to constantly compare him to 50 million, 60 million. Oh, is he worth the money? Because you're going to look at this cap number and be like, yeah, he's less than 10% of the cap. What are we bitching about here? So hopefully the fan base takes that to heart. I know I will.
Are they tied together from the standpoint of could Brock play well and this thing still go south?
For the 49ers or for the contract itself?
I'm just saying, I get the feeling like, the outs are almost more about the regime than they are about the quarterback. What if the quarterback, because here's what it comes down to. Let's say Brock plays like Brock the next couple of years, and he maybe he's not quite as good as he was in his best, but he also is better than he was last year.
They just won 6 games with him, so I mean it's not ridiculous to go on the.
But they have an easy schedule.
Agreed.
So with this easy schedule, let's just say he plays pretty well, but even though Brant Boyer looks the part, he's a disaster as a special teams coach, and they're still dead last. And Robert Saleh, the old saying, you can't go back. Right. If by chance, because we know the Niners' defensive struggles, it's not about coordination, it's about players. No. And they tried to rebuild this year in the draft. But let's just say it doesn't go their way. Just for the sake of conversation.
No,
let's just say, for the sake of conversation, Brock Purdy plays reasonably well.
Sure.
But the 49ers get very little out of this draft, whiff on all kinds of guys in this draft, wind up winning 8 games, kind of like Mike Shanahan did at the end, where I think he won like 8 games. I think he might have gone 8-8, and then still gotten axed. And then let's just say they go 8-8, and with this super easy schedule that everybody's saying, oh, you're negligent if you win 10, and they go out and they go 8-9 or 8-9 on the year. And then they come back in 2026 and they go 7-10. Right. But Brock plays pretty well, but the defense is still not very good. The special teams is not very good, and they lose some close games, whatever it is. Let's just say they go 8-9 and 7-10 the next 2 years, but Brock plays pretty well.
Right.
I could almost see a scenario where he would be gone just because they want to get rid of Shanahan and Lynch, and maybe the guy coming in is like, hey, I want a new quarterback.
Sure.
So I could see a scenario where Brock Purdy gets dumped despite playing well.
Yeah. I think dumped is maybe a bit much. I think it would have to be via trade, just given the significance of the dead cap hit if they were to drop him in 27. Because again, that 27-year number would be guaranteed if he starts the 26 season. If he's just on the roster on April 1 of 2026, it's almost like a 5th-year option where it just, guess what? That's guaranteed now. So your 27 is guaranteed. So if after 2 years it's not going great, well, you've already bought the 3rd year. So would a new coach, a new regime want to say, hey, we can move on? Yeah. They just did it in Denver when Sean Payton came in and said, get Russell Wilson the fuck. I can't do this anymore. And they're paying him $35 million this year against the cap. I think it was like 70 last year. So you got to take your medicine on that. And if you have a rookie contract at quarterback, you can do that more reasonably. But I think a trade would be far more likely because, again, he's playing well. Right. So now it doesn't cost you as much in terms of the dead cap hit. It would still be pretty painful. And, like OTC, who does an incredible job over the cap, I don't think it's properly represented because of those strange guarantee dates, how much it would cost. And I'm going through my texts with Jake and I as we were trying to get it all broken down. It is it's enough to make your head spin, but it's somewhere between 50 and 75. Hopefully that's enough of a ballpark. That's a big old number, even with a rising cap for any team to want to take. And it's not like it just all goes away after that because you still have the prorated signing bonus and things like that. So I would say it would be more to the effect of a trade, but the way I'm using these option years is it's a team option. So I don't think that there's any chance that Brock, and I don't think this is what you were leaning into at all, but I don't think there's any chance that Brock could be like, hey, I want out. And, we got this kind of out date coming up here. Let's take it. Let's all move on. That's not prudent for him. I think he would try to renegotiate or try to work a trade somewhere else if it has gone sour here. As for the Niners, again, the best path forward for them, if things are to get murky, and again, I think it would be a pretty dramatic turn if things got murky, but the best path forward might be to just do nothing and just have have 27 and 28 just pick up, and then you have a pretty clean break after that. Or you can get out of it a little bit better in 28 than you could in 27 because the guarantees are not 100% carryover. This is all wild minutia that I don't think anyone gives a fuck about besides maybe me or you. But suffice it to say, this is not like it's not the NBA. Right? Where it's like, if you give a guy a $265 million contract over 5 years, he's getting the $53 million every year, whether you want him to or not. There are a million ways to rework this, to massage this. And in fact, to get out of this, albeit with a dead cap hit, but as we found out this past offseason, the dead cap does not matter. It's the cash allocated to the player that seems to matter to the 49ers. And the separation of those two things might be the biggest takeaway from this offseason for me, how the 49ers treat cash as opposed to how they treat the cap. And I do think that that's something that maybe we all need to be a bit more cognizant of moving forward as we talk about contracts, to whatever degree we're qualified to talk about contracts. With this, again, the cash issue is lesser because of those guarantee structures and kind of getting out ahead of it, right? So the cash issue of trying to save cash, that's already been settled, much in the same way, again, when we dealt with Ayuk this past year. It's like, oh, well, they have to trade him before April 1st. Otherwise, this upcoming season becomes guaranteed. Well, they're going to have to deal with that shit the year before. So there's not a lot of wiggle room in terms of getting out of it. So I would say if there's any way that this thing divorces without it just being a complete implosion and everything on fire and who cares what the dead cap is, we got to burn this thing to the ground and build from the ashes. If there was any out on this, I would have to say it'd be trade because of that guarantee structure. And that's a pretty bad situation to be in as it starts. So I think that Brock can feel some security in that, even though the Niners can feel some security in the ability to get out of this if they need to.
When you look at this deal, did the Niners, okay, forget about the deal and let's talk about the team. Mm-hmm. Because, at the end of the day, the fans, somebody called the Cambiar and said it to me tonight. He's like, hey, man, whatever on the deal. I can't relate.
Sure.
I can't relate. I can't relate to $265 million, 110 and this and that. And I just can't relate.
Totally.
Yeah, and it's just I can't even listen to it. I can't even hear it without just kind of glazing over and just kind of I'm not really hearing any of it. Totally and I totally understand that. But the question is this. Is Brock Purdy and the 49ers, are they together? Are they going to be successful? Whether who won and who didn't, whether they paid too much, paid too little, is this going to be success? And to me, that's predicated on how well do the 49ers support Brock Purdy. And then that leads to the question about this offseason. Pro Football Network gave them a D for their offseason. Most teams, when they have a young quarterback, it's like, this is how it goes. Okay, let's just pretend we're expansion, okay? We got to get a young quarterback. All right, we got our young quarterback. All right, now let's go to supporting our young quarterback. Let's get him a left tackle. Let's get him a number one receiver. Let's get him a tight end that he can trust. Let's get him a great back he can hand it to. Let's support the quarterback. Mm-hmm. Well, the Niners got Brock Purdy. And they paid him now, okay, and it's all hunky-dory, everything's fine. But have they supported him? Did they support him? They said goodbye to Debo. Ayuk is not going to play much of the year, if at all, and if he is going to play, he's likely to be quite a bit diminished. Nobody seems to want to talk about that. It's like oh, we just won't talk about it. If we don't talk about it, then it won't be reality. No, reality is that your two best receivers from last year aren't really on the team this year. Okay, you had Ricky Pearsall, who played like crap for 6 games and played great for 2 games, and we're supposed to pretend that the 6 games don't matter, but the 2 games matter a ton. And then you have Jacob Cowing, who, if you told me he was pissed at me, I wouldn't even be worried. He's 175 pounds. It's like, okay. So, it's like, you know what I'm saying?
I can't remember a single thing that Jacob Cowing did last year.
He fell down when he ran. Now, I liked him in college, and I liked the pick. And I think if he gets stronger, I think there's potential for him to make a big impact. Sure. But last year, it didn't happen. So, and then you got Demarcus Robinson's facing a 3-game suspension. Mm-hmm. You got Junior Bergen, who is a return man.
Yeah, you don't want him running routes.
Yeah, that's not your receiver.
But if you don't draft somebody strictly for special teams, what are you doing as a football team? They took a 27-year-old punter in the 3rd round, and then a kicker in the 3rd round, and then just a strict kick returner. But he might be the next Dante Hall. He better be the next Dante Hall, given that they used a draft pick on him.
He'd be the next Jared Hayne,
Oh, Jesus.
Jared takes my breath away. I'll never forget when Kevin Lynch told me that Jared Hayne's the greatest return man he's ever seen. I'm like, hey, Kev, happy 3rd birthday. Where are you guys going for your birthday? Chuck E. Cheese? I'm like, what about Devin Hester? What about Dion? What about Billy White Shoes Johnson? What about like everybody who from the 70s and 80s?
Desmond Howard.
Jared Hayne. I'm like, oh my goodness, Kev, if you're out there, brother, I'm sorry I bring it up, but it's just that atrocious. Okay, so Pearsall, Jawan's relatively slow. Pearsall's a question mark. Right. Robinson's going to miss the first 3 games. I really like Jordan Watkins a lot. So I think Watkins is going to step in and be pretty good, to be completely honest. Yeah. I have hope for Cowing. No hope at all for Tariq Owens, Trent Taylor, or Russell Gage.
Nope.
Junior Bergen's a return guy. Isaiah Nayer looks like Randy Moss. I'll say that. He looks freaking awesome.
Why didn't he get drafted then?
Yeah, but I'm skeptical. Skeptical.
I've watched it. I know exactly why he didn't get drafted. He looks like Randy Moss. He plays like Dieter Kurtenbach.
I'm skeptical, but we'll see. And then there's Isaiah Hodgins, who I actually think is, not fast at all, but he's got some possession receiver, which is, hey, if you're going to be Ronnie Bell, you might as well be 6'4" instead of 5'10". So I kind of like the Hodgins ad. We'll see if he makes the team. But they need a receiver, man. They didn't. No doubt. And your offensive tackles are Colton McKivitz and Trent Williams in his 17th year, and your 3rd tackle is who? Andre Dillard, Austin Pleasance, Nicholas Petit-Frere. What are we talking about? The 49ers are a Trent Williams concussion away from a nightmare. They just paid their quarterback a ton, and they're not prepared to protect him, it doesn't seem. Or are they? Because every time their offensive line comes up, they're like, stick their chest out and are like, our offensive line's way better than you idiots think it is.
Well,
so what is it? Is their offensive line way better than we think it is, or what?
I think that they are. I don't want to say anything politically incorrect here, but if you were to have a collection of short people together, and you were to be the tallest short person, does it make you a tall person? No, but relatively, sure. And that's where the 49ers stand. They have set the bar so low for themselves in terms of talent acquisition and all these things. The fact that they have a functional offensive line is incredible. And so they hold themselves to a very low standard. They always exceed it. And then beyond that, I don't think people quite understand, watching other teams around the league, just how god-awful offensive line play is. There's like the Eagles, then there, and I will quote the movie Moneyball, 8 feet of crap, and then there's every other offensive line in the league. We were talking about Buffalo last year as like an elite offensive line. Buffalo's offensive line was meh. oh, well, Josh Allen didn't get a sack. That's because he's running around like Mario back there, every single jumping on dudes, getting star ups. I mean, he was doing the most incredible stuff ever. Maybe Baltimore has a good offensive line, but when you think about like Kansas City, I'm just thinking good teams, right? Like the Lions. The Lions' offensive line is one of the more overrated things in the NFL. It was really, really good like 2 years ago. Last year, it fell off pretty significantly just from my eye test, which, you want to go to your Pro Football Focus, knock yourself out. I'm sure they'll give it a good grade. But I was watching Jared Goff just flinging it out. Just, I can't do anything with this. The Chiefs' offensive line was a joke last year, which showed then in the Super Bowl. Chargers might have had a good one. They were too young to really find out, and their interior was pretty wonky. The Bills was overrated. Baltimore's was overrated, though it might be good. I don't know, but it's such a difficult gauge. All this to say, Larry, that offensive line play is perhaps as bad as it's ever been in the history of the NFL, and I think the Niners feel a little bit smug, a little bit arrogant with the fact of, oh, well, we could have spent money to have a shitty offensive line, but look at us. We're doing it on the cheap. Look at how good we are. We can do this with anybody. We can give you the 20th best offensive line in the NFL with one guy. All we have to do is pay one guy, and that's how we'll get it done. And you know what? They might be right. They legitimately might be right, but that does not mean that their quarterback is protected. So it's a good thing he's got that good 10-yard split because he's going to need it.
I mean, I'm looking at offensive line pass block win rate rankings from last year. Yeah. Number 1 in the league, Denver. Number 2, Philly. Number 3, Kansas City. Number 4, Baltimore.
Kansas City?
Number 5, Buffalo. Those were the 5 best offensive line pass block win rate rankings.
What was
as far as run block? What's that?
What was number 1 again?
Denver.
Denver with Mike McGlinchey.
Denver offensive line pass block win rate rankings. They were number 1, 76%. Eagles 2nd, Kansas City 3rd, Baltimore 4th, Buffalo 5. Yeah. Offensive line run block win rate rankings. Number 1, Chicago. Number 2, Kansas City.
Chicago, who rebuilt their entire offensive line.
Number 3, Washington. Number 4, Baltimore. Number 5, Denver.
I mean, come on now.
And as far as pass block rankings, the Niners are ranked 11th.
Yeah.
Broncos, Eagles, Chiefs, 1, 2, 3. Ravens, Bills, Vikings, 4, 5, 6. Commanders, Lions, Packers, 6, 7, 8. Browns, 9 or 10. Niners, 11.
I mean, I don't want to disparage the Broncos. I'm not going to lie and pretend like I watched many Broncos games, but how much of them having really good win rates on both is just that they had a rookie quarterback who they did not trust to hold the ball for more than 2 seconds.
Right.
So it's just like, yeah, of course you won. These guys never got out of their set,
right.
And then with the run, they had good running backs, and maybe they are a good run blocking team. Like I can't take anything, but if Chicago's the best, I mean, my God, what are we talking about? They rebuilt no one spent more money on the offensive line than the Chicago Bears. They looked at their offensive line with their GM, who's a former offensive lineman, and they said, we suck. But apparently they were the best run blocking team in the NFL. So I'm not questioning the stat. I'm questioning the validity of quality, right? If that's the best, my God, we have a long way to go before we compare to some of the better offensive lines in NFL history, much less recent history.
One thing I wanted to get to tonight was Matt Barrows, I thought, did the best job today as far as putting good content out, Niner-related content, and I thought it was really good. Though I loved your piece on Purdy, but the Barrows piece, he did a sit-down with Tariq Ahmad, the 49ers director of scouting, and these are always good because these guys give so little media that every time they talk, usually there's, we learn things about their players or their process or why they liked them or whatever, and these are things that the fans do care a lot about. I mean, I knew people cared about this, so I saw that he did this article this morning after I did a live stream, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go read that, and then I read it, and I'm like, oh, I'll do a video on it, and sure enough, I did a video on it, and the video that I did on it has like 10,000 views already because
you don't need to brag, but
Well, no, no, I'm just saying. And it's not that everything I put out gets 10,000 views. It's that this is good stuff. And Niner fans, it's funny. It's like I almost feel like good content on YouTube is kind of like a restaurant that has awesome food. You don't need to do any advertising. It's like if it's good, people somehow through the algorithm will find it, figure it out, and watch it in mass.
Yeah.
If it's good. If it's not good, they'll avoid it like the plague, like everything else, and move on to something else. But isn't that interesting? It's like, I mean, just from the thumbnail and the topic, I mean, how many people would be like, report 49er director, Tariq Ahmad. How many people even know who Tariq Ahmad is?
No idea. Maybe that's the curiosity that killed the cat there because.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I know too much about Tariq Ahmad.
But it was a lot of good stuff in here. There really was a lot of good stuff. And, as far as what was in it that was so good. Well, I mean, several things. One, it sounded like, their goals, they knew that they were going to stock up on the D-line. Like that was absolutely number one. Number one, stock up on the D-line. Number two is they knew in this draft that they were going to be able to add a good running back or two because it was that good of a running back draft.
Right.
So that was his first observation. He said they were really excited to have the 3 7th-round picks, and they were actually hoping to add more, which is encouraging because they actually liked more players in the 7th round. And it kind of shows that they had guys that they liked all the way through this draft. They loved Mikael Williams' interview at the Combine. Supposedly he walked in and he was intense and he was passionate. And the Georgia people had said, hey, when you meet this guy, you're going to love him. He's intense. He's passionate. And he walked in the room and he was exactly what they thought. So you could tell that was a big moment. Also, it came out in this article that the Niners have a scout named Steve Rubio who went to a Georgia practice, and that Williams that day played every single rep and then stayed after for an additional 20 minutes. And the Niners thought he was battling an ankle injury, and there he was out there practicing. Now, I don't know if Williams knew that Rubio was there. Who knows? Maybe. Or maybe he's just a super hard practicer. Maybe he's a guy who just really goes at it. I mean,
to be fair,
you did a draft
I've
guide.
heard that was a pretty standard practice that he's. Like Georgia would tell him, like, let's tone it down. He's like, job's the job. That's kind of how he was. He's been a professional for a long time, which is something that I think Lynch has alluded to in recent weeks. I know people around the NFL have alluded to, like, one of the perks of the above board payment of college players is that if you were wired to be a pro, you've now been practicing in earnest since you were 18 years old.
That's a good point.
And this is a guy
and you find out if money's going to change you.
Right.
Or if money's going to ruin you,
Money can be a tremendous, but I got no problem with guys who are motivated by the money if they're willing to put in the work and trust the process and they're not flimsy with it, right? Like, hey, sometimes I get up and I'm like, I don't want to fucking do any of this stuff, but I got to pay the bills. So it gets me going. And then every now and again, I find the groove. If he needs the money to get him to do that extra 20 minutes in earnest, God bless him. Who cares? But ultimately, yeah, you understand what he's about because it's not a new dynamic coming into the professional ranks. They've been professional on a lower level, maybe even not even that lower level. I mean, I don't know how you'd compare like the Bengals versus Alabama football. We talk about facilities and things like that. Maybe they're slumming it at the NFL level, but
Alabama football's got more money to spend.
I know, right? But well, now they're spending it on players, so we'll see what happens with those facilities. Regardless, it is I think an important distinction for some of these guys that hey, they're still about that work, and yeah, maybe they're faking it a little bit more on a day they know a scout's there, but it's Georgia. There's a scout there every goddamn day, so that's a lot of faking it. That's almost just practice at that point. You can't be faking it every day inside and out. That's just when you're doing it. So.
Interesting piece, though.
It was tape, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good player. I don't know if he's going to be great against the pass, but he's very strong against the run and in the wide nine, playing more. If he stays healthy and he plays in this wide nine, I think it's almost impossible that he's not going to run into half a dozen sacks. But we'll see. We'll see.
I mean, if
I'll say this:
Floyd
he does
could do it last year. Heaven knows, Mikael Williams can.
I mean, they're totally different. I mean,
no, I know, but like, think about what like Leonard Williams is out there just getting worked for the first 10 seconds, 5 seconds really, of every snap. Just like he's out in no man's land. He's halfway to Cupertino by the time, and then it's just, hey, the quarterback ran into me. And it's like, oh, what a sack.
Well, I mean, I'll say this. I mean, I think Leonard Floyd is a genius, and I think everybody who plays his position should study him. He's linear. He doesn't have strength. Functionally, he's not what he was even a couple years ago, and yet he's still going to be an effective player who makes a lot of money because he comes out of his stance and he keeps his eyes on the quarterback. And if the quarterback steps up in the pocket, then he comes off of his block with the offensive lineman with his back to the quarterback. He has no idea. He's super fast at timing to, that second movement off the secondary movement of the quarterback, and he doesn't beat anybody anymore. He doesn't bother dipping the shoulder and fighting these offensive tackles. He comes out of his stance. He kind of engages, kind of takes a step back, doesn't let the offensive lineman get him tied up, reads where the quarterback's going, jump cuts back to the middle, and sees if he can pick off a sack or, a cheap sack. He's not going to work for a sack. Not anymore. I mean, I'm not trying to disparage the guy. No, I'm just saying
he works for a lot of sacks. He's done working for sacks.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, it's like D Ford, at the end. I mean, eventually you learn all the tricks of the trade. The veterans don't have to have the athleticism. The young guys have to have all the athleticism. Either way, though, I think he's definitely strong. He definitely reminds me of Trayvon Walker. I don't think he's as good as Trayvon Walker, but he definitely has that kind of body where he's super thick, and even though he's kind of narrow. So he's really strong. He carries a lot of weight in his frame. I think he's going to be a try-hard guy, and I think in the wide nine, it'll be fun to see how many snaps he can play and how much production he can have. I think he'll be good against the run. I think that's an important spot, especially opposite Nick. So I like that. Now, the other thing that came out in this story was that the Niners had 19 different scouting reports on Alfred Collins, that they had been on Texas's campus to look at so many different players over the last 3 years. But, they loved his short area quickness. I thought what I took away from this piece was that Tariq Ahmad worked at Rutgers for 7 seasons with the Texas O-line coach, who told him that Collins is just crushing people in practice, hardest guy to block.
I believe it.
Interestingly enough, I mean, Dieter, this is a guy who, he doesn't look necessarily like a two-gapper. When you're standing right next to him, he clearly is. I mean, he's just the biggest, widest guy you've ever seen. But the Niners have a one-gap-and-go, attack and penetrate and get up the field kind of a system. He's not going to be a two-gapper. And they're talking about, hey, look, we think in our system, if we can just kind of coach him out of staying home and sitting in the hole and just trying to get upfield and win pass rush wise, they think there's additional pass rush both for him and CJ West, who they don't like. They love CJ West, but they don't like his get off. And imagine that. Imagine if the Niners can get some pass rush out of Collins and West. To me, that is the dream. If those guys can give you pass rush, I think this is going to be a very good football team. It's a big if, but if it can happen, and Chris is a great coach, we'll find out. They handpicked these guys. If they can turn these guys into anything as interior rushers, they will have something because they're really strong against the run.
The concern that I have with Collins as a one-gap guy, which, again, is inherent to what the Niners do, is that it is so predicated on explosion off the line of scrimmage. They love that broad jump, right? That means that you can explode like a bullfrog out of your stance and do the DJ Jones, which is just, I don't even need a move. My move is that you can't touch me before I get into the backfield because I explode out of my stance so quickly, and I'm going to line up right off of your shoulder. And by the time, again, you get out of your stance, I'm past that shoulder and there's no way you can get two hands on me. My concern with Collins is that that explosion does not show up on tape, and it does not show up in combine testing scores. Now, he is a powerful athletic player with inconsistent technique. I do think that if you refine that technique, he could be really fun and really interesting. And there is this shade of Chris Jones that you can talk yourself into. He also kind of just looks like him in the face, which is fascinating. like you can talk.
He seems. You know. I mean, no.
No, go ahead.
I mean, no offense to the Chris Jones people, but this guy, I thought looked like Chris Jones as well when I watched the film. But
I think he's
when I'm standing next to the guy,
yeah.
I think Chris Jones is way more defensive end, and this guy's way 100%. More defensive tackle.
And I think that's right. I think that it's interesting that when they talk about the time at Texas, yes, clearly, when you watch the tape, they're having him hold gaps, which is great. What a concept. No one on the Niners could do it last year, so I'm all in on somebody holding a damn gap at the NFL level. And yes, they had him two gap a lot, mainly because he just got double teamed a lot. I don't know if he was getting two gap responsibilities a lot, or if he was just getting double teamed a lot, and they're like, let's just turn that into his responsibility now and let Vernon Broughton go after him and let our other great defensive linemen go after him. But he was unquestionably the focal point of every offensive line he went up against, and the epicenter of everything Texas was trying to do on their defensive line. Those are things that matter to me. Again, though, he was playing a kind of game when you did see those Chris Jones flashes that didn't seem to suit him. And then he was very reliant on his strength to overcome some of the explosion downside or the lack of explosion that I didn't see. So I feel like it's a little bit of a square peg in a round hole situation for the 49ers, where if it works, unbelievable, because now you have a player with incredible size, incredible strength, and you somehow found that explosion that was so dormant that no one else could see it, but somehow you did. And you know what? They might be right. They're all in on him now. They use a second-round pick on him. If they find it, that is a spectacular player. That is a all-pro caliber player, because now it's all clicking. Now you have a DeForest Buckner 2.0, or the Eric Armstead that they always thought they would get when they moved him to the interior, which they never really got. It just feels like that's a pretty far ways away, if it even exists at all. It's a pretty high bar, of course, but it with the inconsistent technique and the lack of explosion, as far as I can find it, it does feel as if it's a bit of a whimsical concept to now turn him into a 49ers defensive lineman. I would somewhat ask them to lean into some of the things that you know he can do well, which is hold a damn gap. And that doesn't mean you're now a two-gap system. You're not changing the system. But it'd be nice if you can just line him up at one technique. He runs into a center, runs into a guard, and guess what? Now you got to go to the B and the C gap, because the A gap is held by Alfred Collins. Like, let's try that and then work on something, as opposed to playing him, which it sounds like they want to play him at three technique, and then try to get this explosion through the gap and try to get into the backfield and do the same thing that they were doing with Hargrave and Alfred, the other Collins. Like, they want to do a lot of different stuff. I think they're galaxy brained a little bit on this one. I think that they're really hoping for some upside that they saw out of practice that just I don't know where the evidence is when it comes to game film or combine testing scores to say that he can be this hyper explosive athlete. I hope I'm wrong, because I would love to see a player that big play that style. That would be fun as hell. It would be absolutely fun as hell. The Niners think they have it. I'm not sure where they found it, but we're going to find out.
Exactly. We are going to find out, and we're going to find out, with this entire draft class, exactly what are they getting out of this group this year. It came out in this piece that Johnny Holland and Robert Saleh both fell in love with Nick Martin. And I guess not only Mikael Williams, but Nick Martin had a great combine interview, and they wanted a linebacker who, had called the defense. They also wanted a linebacker with communication skills, who was a leader. This guy had done that at Oak State. He was a two-time team captain. It's pretty obvious they envisioned him becoming their defensive leader. Ahmad even compared his aggressiveness, physicality, and passion and play speed to Dre Greenlaw, while admitting, hey, look, we're just hoping that this is the guy.
There was also a little other thing they mentioned when they're like, yeah, there's a lot of Dre Greenlaw. He might be a little small, though. We'll find out. It's like, that's kind of the big issue here.
Yeah, he's not the same size. He's a 5'11", 220-pound version of Dre Greenlaw, who was, 245 pounds. And so, they're giving away a lot of size.
Demetrius
we'll see.
Flanagan foul sized. It's
Yeah, I mean, I think this guy's stronger than Flanagan Fowles. Flanagan Fowles,
he had no strength.
Played safety at Arizona.
Well, but Fred Warner played safety. He's pretty good. It was just when you watched linebacker after linebacker, including Warner, it should be noted, just getting washed out with second-level blocks all last year. It's very difficult, and we've gone through this a million times. I don't need to rehash the point. We don't need to drag it out again. Like, it's just difficult for me to build up enthusiasm for a player that comes in at a clear competitive disadvantage at size for that position. And he might be the special exception to the rule.
Niners don't care about size at this position. It's pretty clear because D. Winters is pretty small too.
I saw. It was an
D.
issue.
To me, D. Winters has been underwhelming. I mean, I like D. Winters. He's a great guy, and I think there's some potential there. I really do.
He flies.
But he falls off blocks and he's underpowered. And if he's going to ever really be a starter and be a difference maker, he's just got to get more play strength. He's got to, and we'll see how much play strength Martin has. He did have 26 reps. Hopefully it translates.
He looks off. I mean, there's a lot of things. If you were to create a Madden football player, he might look like Nick Martin.
Oh, he looks great. He looks great. And he is the poster child for all gas, no brakes. The question is, you need a little brakes sometimes.
Yeah, I would prefer a car with brakes personally.
Ahmad loves Upton Stout's demeanor and aggressiveness, and he says Stout loves getting to the ball in the run game. He plays with passion. Ahmad loves that passion. I thought that was interesting. They said that CJ West needs to work on his get off, that they think he's got some untapped potential, that he was also a great interview, which I think I love the CJ West pick. I'm very bullish on CJ West being a very, very good NFL player.
He'll be a rotational defensive lineman. You don't have to worry about him. Also, he's a 4th-round pick. If we were all wrong about CJ West, and by the way, it's not just me and you or the 49ers, there's not a person that I know who wasn't like, CJ West is fun as hell, man. We're all
especially when Wilmer Flores hit the 3rd home run and he was there for it and he was rooting it on. I thought I love that kind of stuff, man. I mean, that kind of stuff's
fun, man. You're young, you just got some money, you're living your dream, and they take you to the ball game for free, man. Have a beer, have a hot dog, have some fun. Stay off social media, but have some fun.
Wave and have some fun and root for the Giants, because now you're a Giants fan, man, right? I mean,
welcome to hell.
Yeah, not a Cubs fan, not a White Sox fan. He's a Chicago guy. Yeah. According to this story, the Niners love Jordan Watkins and what he did in that gauntlet drill at Indy, where he was timed at 19.7 miles per hour in the gauntlet drill. It's so funny because I always think of that drill as a total throwaway drill that doesn't really indicate anything. And yet that was the second fastest among wide receivers. I will say this. If you can go fast and run straight and still catch the ball,
I'll give you that.
That is kind of important. You don't like when I was watching the Niners rookie minicamp and they had the receivers doing in that drill where they zigzag back and forth and then they throw them a ball at the end.
Of course.
They demand that the guys sprint through that because that's a freaking way easy drill if you jog through it. If you jog through it, anybody, any high school receiver could do it. But if you sprint through it, even the best college receivers struggle with it. So you heard the Niner receiver coaches during that rookie camp going, let's go, faster, run that through, run that out, they were trying to establish the play speed of the drill. And Watkins only had 6 drops his entire college career. Supposedly Shanahan likes him because he's fluid with great change of direction skills. Supposedly Kyle was a big fan of this pick. I like this pick. It was Kyle's pick, but I like this guy too. Why? Because to me, I'm looking for 3 things. Give me production, give me speed, give me real tangibles, and then give me production. And then preferably give it to me in a league that's not, the FCS level. I need to see it at a pretty high level, and I need speed and production. And this guy's got speed and production, and he did it at Ole Miss. This guy doesn't nobody, if you watched Ole Miss, your favorite receiver would definitely be Trey Harris. And then if you watched him for a couple more weeks, your favorite receiver after that would be Juice Wells. This guy would have been the third because he just looks kind of like a running back. He's kind of not the tallest guy, but he's not like, super ripped and cut and everything. But he's fast and physical. He makes catches and he's productive. And he did it in the SEC. I think he's going to do it in the NFL.
There's a name that was floating around a lot as it pertained to the 49ers during draft time. Kyle Williams from Washington State. There's a lot of similarities.
Went to New England. Yeah, I liked him too.
If you liked him, you probably like Jordan Watkins. I don't have anything negative to say about Jordan Watkins, which might be the negative thing to say, right? It's kind of a meh pick. It doesn't feel like there's a tremendous amount of upside. It feels like a guy who's going to be in the league for a long time, but might never do anything spectacular.
It's an easy pick for people to rip because they know it's a Kyle pick.
Yeah, well, Kyle's
and they know that
right,
Kyle's had
too.
I mean, got Kittle right, but I mean, he's also got Jalen Hurd and C.J. Beathard and Dante Pettis, and there's Joe Williams, and he's got a number of misses.
I'll say this: I don't get the gauntlet drill thing. Like, obviously, they do it. I'm not saying that it's not. If they wouldn't do it if someone didn't get something out of it. But to quote the piece, we think it's one of the best measures of natural hands. Can you stay in a straight line and naturally pluck the ball and react and then do it again? It's like, what you never do in an NFL game? Catch it from both the left and the right side of your body on a given route. Like,
well, what tells me you have great hands? A game log that is filled with big days. 10 catches for 172 yards in an SEC game. 8 catches for 154 yards in an SEC game. That's what tells me.
And I think his tape is more than enough. Again, a 4th-round draft pick. I think that we need to caveat all of this with, like, what's the worst that can happen? They could cut him in training camp, and it would be a story for a day, right? It's not a 6th round where if you cut him, only the weirdos like me would be like, what are you doing? You can't get rid of Jared Kingston. But, if you get a 4th-round guy and he doesn't pan out after a year, guess what? You did Jacob Cowing again. And I don't think anyone's actually too torn up about the Jacob Cowing situation as it currently stands. Is it a good look? No. Is it something that, people are calling for John or Kyle's head about? Also no. So I'm totally fine with this pick. I'm excited to see where they line him up because he's not built particularly to play the X, but that kind of speed might be very useful at the X, given what Kyle wants that position to do if it's not going to be a primary receiver, which is a lot of clear out routes, a lot of 7, 8s, and 9s, which is one of the reasons why I just want to say Christian Kirk so bad. It's not Christian Kirk. 13, former Bill, deep play. What was his name?
Shakir?
No, it was he's a free agent wide receiver. He's already visited the 49ers. Why do I want to keep saying Christian Kirk? It's not Christian Kirk. Gabe Davis.
Thank
you. Gabe Davis
UCF.
does that. You bring him in. He can run the 7, 8, 9 routes, just the deep stuff. Can't run anything underneath. Can't run anything intermediate, but he can clear out.
Well, and he runs sideline routes. He runs a lot of sideline routes.
But that's what an X receiver is, right? You think about Ayuk in his first couple of years. What did Kyle do? Just clear him out of here. Just run that.
I liked Ayuk 2 years ago on those deep crossers. I thought those deep crossers were amazing. It seemed like he would sky 25 feet in the air for some of those balls.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
See if Watkins with his speed and, if Kyle likes him, if he likes his hands, that's a positive sign. Maybe, just maybe, you can take this guy who doesn't have prototypical X receiver, a prototypical X receiver frame at 5'11 and 195, and maybe you can play him there. And oh, by the way, you happen to need an X receiver for week 1. So I know Kyle told this kid, hey, you're probably not going to see the field for a while. I'm looking at the depth chart, and you alluded to it earlier. They might need to have him on the field ASAP, in which case, great pick.
Kev is listening from Original Joe's on Chestnut Street.
Bless
so
him.
Kev, enjoy your party at Original Joe's. It's a great spot, man. We went there for dinner a few weeks ago. That's a good spot. The Dugan family runs Original Joe's. All right, couple last thoughts on this Barrows thing. Tariq Ahmad told Barrows that he loves Jordan James's strength and acceleration. More than half of James's career yards came after contact. That's a great stat.
Yeah.
Ahmad clearly thinks the Niners hit on two pretty good running backs. They had a draftable grade on Corey Kiner as well, the undrafted free agent. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I don't know what to say about either running back. I was definitely impressed by Corey Kiner's highlight film, and then I thought he had a nice little run in the minicamp, but it's a small sample size. We'll see if has enough quickness to
he
doesn't
have that oomph that you're kind of looking for, right?
Well, you got to have quickness. I mean, you don't have to have speed, but you got to have quickness, and we'll see if he has it. I don't know if he has, but I will say this: the contact balance, the toughness, and the pedigree is there. I mean, this kid's
got hell in the preseason. They're going to run his ass to the ground in the preseason. Everyone's going to
I would not be surprised.
Cut his ass.
I wouldn't be surprised if he winds up making it. We'll find out. But
he will be the story. He will be the story of the preseason. There will be so much ink spilled about Corey Kiner.
Oh yeah, man. There's going to be people talking him up too.
Can you tell me, when you watch James, did you see the kind of explosion? Because I don't know. I think that he is a daring runner. I think he is a confident runner. I think he has one of the more underrated skills for running backs at the college level is the ability to run into tight quarters, right? You know what gap it is, and instead of just taking the big wide open one typically on the outside, you actually run in between your offensive linemen. You kind of go through the gauntlet there. He does that great, no question about it. But when they talk about like great explosion, his 10-yard splits in the 24th percentile for running backs. Like, I didn't see it on tape. I just saw him be a bad man in the sense of he's willing to take the hit. He's willing to go into the tough places. That means a lot to me. But in terms of, they love his explosion, I don't know. I think he's just more willing to do tough things than a lot of college running backs.
I don't know,
Did you
man.
see the explosion?
No. I didn't see it, period. I didn't see it. I looked at so many backs in this draft.
I didn't have him highly rated at all.
I didn't see it. And the more I've watched since the draft, I like Kiner way more. I like Kiner's balance more, and I like Kiner's toughness. Kiner has got some really ridiculous toughness. He's I don't know if he's fast enough. He might not be special enough as an athlete, but I don't know about Jordan James. I didn't see anything there that would make me. I know he can catch it a little bit. Other than that, I don't know what to expect. I won't put I won't put any real strong opinions out there on Jordan James because I don't have a strong opinion. To me, there were way better backs in this draft. But we'll see. I mean, a lot of people liked him. Bucky Irving, God knows Bucky Irving had a tremendous year from Oregon's system last year.
A totally different beast. This guy's more like Bucky Irving's backup, Sean Tucker.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, this guy seems very, very ordinary. Where Kiner seems to me to be
a draftable grade on our draft guide.
Kiner to me seems to be a guy that was really, really good in high school, has never missed a game,
right,
and has been very productive. The question is he special enough to be an NFL player, or is he just kind of a guy? Kind of a guy, and we're going to find out this summer.
Sometimes guys hang around a lot longer than you thought.
And also, it's a lot of, the one of the biggest traits.
My career in a nutshell.
One of the biggest traits for great running backs is toughness. It's like what makes a great running back a great. Well, sometimes just toughness. I mean, I think that was one of Marshawn Lynch's greatest traits. I think that's one of Walter Payton's greatest traits.
Unquestionably.
When you say the guys who weren't good, who were supposed to be good, like Kajana Carter, I don't think some of those guys were all that tough.
You could have gotten Damian Martinez, though. That dude's tough as hell. He scares the hell out of me.
He's in Seattle.
And he's on the Seahawks now, so that should go great. That won't be a problem for the Niners at all.
Marquise Siegel was interesting. Ahmad says he loves how Siegel closes and plays with physicality. I did see him come up in the Shrine game and really hit somebody. And the fact that he really hit somebody and he's got 4.37 speed, I can see why they're intrigued by him. I don't know if he's a player, but he had a big hit in that Shrine game, and he's a former corner from North Dakota State with 4.37 speed. Hopefully he can be a coverage player because they need badly a safety who can cover with top end speed. They really do. They're a very slow football team on the perimeter, and Siegel, I think, might be able to add something. I'll say this: Lynch should know this position, right? This is his position. And then I thought it was also interesting how Ahmad's, really likes Curtis Rourke, cited his experience, his processing speed, his decision making, his accuracy. They went with a super unproven guy in Trey Lance. Obviously rectified that mistake with Purdy. Now they feel like that's the secret.
Yep.
So they like guys who have experience and who process quickly, make good decisions, and are accurate. And they say Rourke was a big favorite of their new QB coach, Mick Lombardi, that he was centered on Rourke among one of the top guys on his list early on. So we'll see. I thought that was interesting. Also, Ahmad said that Chris Forster really believes in Connor Colby's mentality and thinks he fits perfectly. The Niners and Iowa run the same type of scheme, but supposedly Nick...
I love that argument. I cannot get enough of people being like, oh, Iowa runs a lot. Every fucking team in college football runs a zone blocking system. The problem is no team runs as often as Iowa, so you don't get as good of a look at it in the run game.
I don't think they coach it as well. I mean, I'll say this. I think Iowa's really well coached. I mean, when I watch this Colby kid, there's no doubt you see guys with more explosive movements all over offensive line tape everywhere in college football. But as far as like a guy who's making little subtle movements like an NFL veteran, this guy is that guy. I mean, this guy understands subtle movements, and I just thought his film as a run blocker, I liked what I saw, and I liked how this guy kind of got after it. This guy seems kind of like an old school throwback guy who likes to kind of get after it. Now, I don't know anything about him really other than Tariq Ahmad says he likes his lower body power as a run blocker, and he came out of a very similar scheme, so they feel like he could transition quickly. I would not be surprised if Drew Moss or Connor Colby start at guard over Ben Bartch. Would not surprise me at all. I saw enough of both those guys. No, it's not a high bar, but I think both those guys look to me to be better prospects than Bartch, and I like Bartch, but I think he's limited as far as can he stay healthy. He's limited in his athleticism. I think he's nasty, and I think he'll bury people, but I don't know that
he'll also get spun around on pass protection with ease. I mean,
I think this guy Colby might be better day one. I mean, I would not be surprised. And Drew Moss to me looked a lot like Jarrett Kingston. He's strong and he's kind of explosive. And he's kind of nasty too. I mean,
that's what I liked about Moss. He seemed like a real MFer, man.
Yeah, and he's kind of athletic.
Yeah,
he's not a big blob. He's more like Kingston. Like Kingston looked more like a power lifter.
Yeah,
I mean, but he looked like a guy who could lift the entire gym. And some of these guys look just kind of small. Or they kind of look just kind of beefy, and they don't look. This guy Drew Moss looked athletic.
Lair, come on now. Wish I had the Moss bod. Can we go back to Siegel real fast? Siegel,
yeah, Siegel.
Yeah,
Marquise Siegel.
It's a 5th-round pick again. So the caveat is, what's the worst that can happen? It ain't that bad. This is an all-time, all traits, no tape guy. This is someone, they're just drafting him on spec because the spec is incredible. But then you watch him and you're like, where is he? What team is he on? Oh, he's on Kansas State. That's all. I watched a ton of, I was a big Jacob Parrish guy. I watched a lot of Kansas State secondary. I knew who he was. I didn't think anyone was going to draft him because nobody, and I've said this before, but
seemed like a way overdraft.
Totally. Nobody in college football on the All-22 this past year, and I should have done like a little award show for all these weird, quirky things that you find watching the All-22 on these college games. Nobody ran into the frame faster or later than Marquise Siegel. I mean, any play, tackles made, here comes Marquise Siegel. Oh, I'm here, guys. What do you need? He was there so fast once everything was done. And I don't disagree. It's John Lynch's position. He should know the position. He's a Hall of Famer at the position. all of these things. They also drafted Jair Brown. So as much as I want to give them a ton of credit for taking Malik Mustafa, who's incredible and fantastic, you also have a Jair Brown in the mix. And I can see why they liked Brown. I'm not like totally torn up by the fact that they took Brown. There were moments he didn't get any better from really hit the floor, all of these things. With Sigel, this is a big ask, particularly at a position of serious need for this upcoming season. If it hits, it is spectacular because he is as physically talented as any safety in this draft. He might have been the most physically talented safety in this draft. He went in the 5th round anyway, and safety might be that one position. And I think that this has been borne out. Like it's great to have that athleticism. You want that athleticism, but it's between the ears more than that. It's a lot like quarterback in that I need the guy who sees it, feels it, understands it, and then I'm hoping I get the elite athletic traits. But I can't teach the between the ear stuff, and that between the ear stuff can make up for a lot of athletic deficiencies if you have it. So I'm fascinated. He's perhaps the most interesting player going into training camp for the 49ers because I think he'll have every opportunity as the roster currently stands to not just have a role, because he'll be a great special teamer, not just have a role, but a starting job week 1 as a rookie at safety. That is a huge deal. And it will have to be plainly evident to anyone watching these practices that he's earned it, because that is not something you can just give a rookie on a whim. I'm going to be watching every single rep that I can, because I think that goes a long way to not just the 49ers' future, but their present and defining what 2025 is going to be. If he can give you something beyond special teams, if he looks like a real steal in the 5th round, the George Kittle of defense, that's a big ask, but kind of the same ilk. No production, all just great athletic traits. If he's that guy, that's a total game changer. If he's not that guy, they got a real issue at safety.
I put this on the screen. This is from Coach Yak's Twitter. Lowest check down rate in the NFL last year. Caleb Williams, 7.1%. Brock Purdy, 7.2%. It's so hilarious because, the whole, this is the dink and dunk guy.
That.
It's like,
People
dude.
don't watch the games. They don't know what the hell they're talking about.
I mean, it's like, talk about judging the book by the cover. And obviously that's been debunked long ago, but you could make an argument, and I would, that Brock Purdy needs to check it down more.
Yes, that's the funniest thing to me. It does feel like the same contingent of people who bitch about, Brock, anyone could do this. Brock is just out here dinking and dunking. They're the same ones who complain after the Rams game that Brock is taking too many risks and pushing it down the field too hard. And it's like, you got to pick one. He can't be doing both at the same time. You're either a check down Charlie, or you're
there's a time for both. I mean, we all know there's a time for both. But I mean,
if we're going to paint with the broad brush, you're one or the other, right? Jimmy Garoppolo's a check down Charlie.
This guy, I mean, if you said who's Brock Purdy like, he's Brett Favre.
He's a smaller Favre. What would be a better comp?
He's a Favre. He wants to be. He doesn't look like Favre. He doesn't play like Favre. He doesn't sound like Favre. But this guy's a great competitor like Favre, and he wants to rip it. He wants to rip it.
Yeah.
Down the field.
To his and his team's detriment at times. And last year was a real issue because he did not have the receivers he could rip it to. The one guy that he felt comfortable throwing it to was Jawan Jennings. He had to throw it before Jawan Jennings would come out of his break on the regular. It would just have to be there, and he would hope that it would work out. And it did for a while, and then it stopped. That's why the Pearsall stuff against man-to-man was so interesting late in the year, that they found something, because that is something you can build upon moving forward. But you're right. I mean, it might not be Favre exactly, because you don't want to blaspheme about a cannon like Favre. But that is his mentality. He's out there ripping it. This is a kid who grew up on Dan Marino. I mean, he thinks he's got that kind of arm. He thinks he has that Favre arm, that Marino arm. There's no throw I can't make. He might be 6'1", 215 pounds, dripping wet, but he is out there ripping it. What was his dad? A backup catcher? You got to have an arm to be a
No, his dad was a pitcher.
That was a pitcher. Even better.
Yeah,
He's got a better arm than a catcher. This is what I'm saying. This guy thinks that he has been blessed with a cannon from the gods. And while he has not, that confidence will actually get you a lot further than you think in the NFL.
Anytime we can check in on Greg Cosell,
Fantastic.
I want to check in on Greg
Let's do it.
Cosell. Any stream that I have, if I can check in on Greg Cosell, I will.
Where was Greg latest? Where?
This is on the Ross Tucker podcast.
Fantastic.
Ross Tucker podcast. Here he's talking Purdy on the Ross Tucker.
When people see a quarterback execute at a high level, which Purdy has done for most of his 30 years, okay, that's a fact. You can't argue with that. Okay, that's what he's done. They assume that it's the system that allows a quarterback to play at a high level, particularly if it's drop back stuff. Obviously, when you watch a Lamar Jackson run around or Josh Allen do what he does, but when it's essentially a pocket quarterback executing the system at a high level, people automatically assume it's the system, Ross, just like you say. It is really hard to do. I remember years ago talking with Steve Young, and we were talking about Bill Walsh, and Steve Young said that it is so hard to do that, and the greatest compliment that I could ever get from anybody is I make it look easy. He said it is so hard to execute that system at a really high level. Talk about quarterbacks. I do it. We all do it. We fall into that trap. I try not to, but people talk about physical traits, arm strength. Can he run around? It's funny. I was just talking with Jack a moment ago, your guy Jack. He mentioned Lenora Sellers from South Carolina. Perfect example. 6'3", 240, big arm, can run around. Anthony Richardson, you've mentioned. But they don't talk about what are really traits as well, which is the ability to understand the game pre-snap, understand what you're looking at, throw with timing and anticipation, be able to instantly recognize disguise and late coverage rotation. These are things that Brock Purdy is very, very good at. And really, when you get down to it, if you listen to someone like Tom Brady talk when he does NFL games, that is what quarterback play is more about than the ability to throw the ball really hard 35 or 40 yards down the field, or the ability to run a 4.4 40. It's the nuances, the details. Quarterback is a disciplined craft. Purdy is at his best. Last year, he was not quite as good as he was in their Super Bowl season, but this is the nature of his game. This is what his game is about. He is a disciplined craft quarterback.
What do you think?
It's perfect. It's perfect analysis. It's Greg Cosell. That's why we would bring him on as often as we could on the leader. I mean, it's just it's not to say that I've agreed with everything Greg Cosell has ever said. He and I have actually had some real drag it outs on the air before in regards to, I don't even remember what it was about, but like there was a disagreement and we both brought what we brought and we agreed to disagree on it. But like, I don't think I can put it. I know I can't put it any better than what he just did. It is a craft. My concern in this regard is how much of the craft is still important, right? I know that this is vital, right? I know this is fundamental to the quarterback position. But when you look at the college level and you especially look at the high school level these days, how much of that craft is still asked of players? And is that going to filter up into the NFL level to where it is less about the craft of quarterbacking and more about just giving a superhuman athlete the ball and letting them see what happens?
I think it will always be about throwing with touch and anticipation. Why? Because the void is smaller in the NFL, and that what Brock Purdy's really best at. If we could test him on it, and
Sure.
and I just know this. I just know this is what he's best at. He knows where the void is going to be.
Yes.
Before the snap. He knows what the options are. He's done them, and it's not that he's the world's smartest guy.
No, but he's good at game theory.
But he has gone through, and I've talked to him about his prep. He goes through every play on the play sheet against every potential possible coverage that will be thrown at him. And then he goes through his process of, if I get this coverage, what's my answer? What are my progressions? What are my 1, 2, 3? What are my 1, 2, 3 against this coverage? What are my 1, 2, 3 against that coverage? And he does the mental reps every week. And so when it comes to Sunday and he comes up to the line of scrimmage, he's looking for one key player, usually a safety or a linebacker, and he's going to read that player and make that player maybe the conflict defender, maybe put that player in conflict, maybe just know exactly on this play, we're going to go here, here, and here. And it's like having that mindset. But to me, it's like when I watch like Justin Fields, because I watched a lot of Pittsburgh for whatever reason last year.
I'm sorry.
He has no idea where the void is in the defense. And so he's a total non-usable quarterback in the red zone because something has to flash open. Then he has to see it open. Mm-hmm. Then he has to do the mechanics of reaching back and throwing it. Then the ball's got to travel there. Then the guy's got to make a play. It's all too slow.
There's no reading. Yeah.
He doesn't react. He doesn't create the void or lead the receiver to the open spot in the defense, the void in the defense. He doesn't do any of that. He doesn't do any of that. So he's got to have the best arm. He's got to have the best accuracy because he's waiting to see it all open. And then once it's totally opened up, then he's going to – and it's like you can't play that way.
Take what's given to him so long as you overtly give it to him.
Right, but I mean, he does not see it.
When you watch their receivers this past year, you saw how much was given. It's not a lot. You don't have these – that's the kind of quarterback where you need the unbelievable talent that – frankly, the 49ers did give Brock Purdy those first 2 years. That's the kind of guy who needs that stuff because he can't work with anything else. Was Purdy great last year? No, of course not. But I was just talking about it. What was he given out there? His best receiver was Juwan Jennings. What was he doing with Juwan Jennings? I just mentioned this. He would have to throw the ball before Jennings came out of his break. That might sound trivial at the NFL level. It frankly should be trivial. At the NFL level, it's not. It just isn't. There's not. I mean, half of the quarterbacks in the NFL who start can't make that throw. They don't have the trust in their preparation. They don't have the trust in their receivers. They don't have the arm to deliver the ball onto a spot as opposed to onto a man. Again, it should be trivial, but it isn't. And going into the system stuff, if Kyle's system was so fucking easy, then how come he can't just do it with anybody, right? I mean, legitimately, everyone says, "Oh, anybody can do it."
That's the biggest fallacy is that there are people still walking around saying that Kyle Shanahan could do it with anybody.
He can do it if if you have the stuff between the ears. Nick Mullins had the stuff between the ears, and he did. He had some pretty nice stuff, and then teams said, "Okay, we got this figured out." I would also like to note in this, everyone runs Kyle Shanahan's system now. So the idea of having some unique advantage because you're Kyle Shanahan has been diminished, seeing as you have 14 minions running around the NFL calling plays just like you and stealing your stuff every week. So every defense is now keyed in on all of these little things. And so what's it going to come down to? It's going to come down to quarterback play and overall talent on the field. When it comes to Brock, it's pretty simple. The first thing that he made clear to Kyle and everybody else is that he could be the offensive coordinator on the field, right? It wasn't just that he would come in there and he would rip it and that he, had this confidence and that he was this almost undeniable leader of men despite having this kind of smaller stature and all this stuff. It was that he knew the entire playbook before he showed up to his first day of training camp, right? Rookie mini camp, they gave him the playbook. That stuff was memorized. He didn't wait a second. He had that stuff down, and he was running those mental reps before he was even on the roster. You saw him after practice in training camp as a rookie, as the fourth string quarterback, running through that stuff extra with some depth receivers, right? Because you never know when your number is going to get called. And that has to be the prerequisite. I don't know how you could feel comfortable as an offensive coordinator, which is an entirely cerebral exercise. Right? It is only mental. Kyle Shanahan would love to go out there and give you a rep because he's got the mental side of it down. That is the foundation of success at the quarterback position, having the mental side down. There is not enough athleticism on the planet to overcome not having the mental side of it down and being able to play the cat and mouse game with defenses. Peyton Manning is a shitty athlete. How is he able to win a Super Bowl or two? The Tom Brady 6th-round draft pick, there's a famous photo of him and his boxers looking like a dope. Greatest quarterback of all time, and he's been chasing that photo, trying to put it to shame ever since then, which is a whole other thing. But why is he the best? Because Joe Montana, 3rd-round pick. No one's saying that these guys aren't incredible professional athletes, but all of these guys were predicated fundamentally on the between-the-ears stuff. This is what pisses me off when people talk about Lamar Jackson. You think that he can just go out there and run around and just figure it out on the fly? No, he's got to do a tremendous amount of between-the-ear stuff. Why is Patrick Mahomes as successful as he is? Yeah, he has Andy Reid. Yeah, he has Travis Kelce. And yeah, they don't even run plays, him and Travis Kelce, a lot of the time. But he is able to game out the game well before the game starts. The mental stuff is handled. And it's not stuff that is overt, and it's not stuff that's clear. This is the kind of stuff that happens on Monday to Saturday. I don't remember who said it, but you don't pay me for Sundays. Sundays I do for free. You pay me for Monday through Saturday to get my body ready in the quarterback position, to get my mind ready. Brock has had that down. 4-year starter in college. You don't think that he learned a little something along the way? He wasn't out there winging it. He's Brock Purdy. He's 6'1", 200 something. He can't be out there winging it. He'll die. He needs to know what he's doing. You got to come in with a plan. You don't just drop into a war zone and hope it all works out. You have missions and you have tactics. And this guy spends all week trying to figure out the best way to be successful because he knows he can't just go out there and wing it. I got nothing but respect for that. And it's, again, it should be inherently trivial that this is how you go about things, because we've seen the best of the best go about business this way. And if LeBron James or Michael Jordan did something, everybody copied it in perpetuity. Now, Steph Curry, everyone's just going to copy Steph Curry in perpetuity. How do they go about their thing? Let me just copy that. That should work for me. It doesn't seem as if a lot of quarterbacks are doing it the same way. Tom Brady is a viable resource. You can touch him. I've talked to Tom Brady. You can talk to Joe Montana. You can talk to Peyton Manning. You could go and you could probably study film with them for free. All you got to do is get to Denver or get to Miami and go hang out with these guys. You can do all these. Get to San Francisco. You can do all these things. And yet so many quarterbacks just go, I got this. I got this figured out. You got Caleb Williams out here saying, I got to watch tape by myself, you know? You got Kyle Shanahan as a resource, and you have the impetus to put in the work. The first responsibility of being a quarterback in the NFL, and particularly for being a Kyle Shanahan quarterback, you have to be an extension of Kyle Shanahan's mind. You have to be the offensive coordinator on the field. And that's why Brock Purdy has a whatever you want to call it contract. That's why. It's not because he's a swashbuckler, he can make all the throws, or he's got a great 10-yard split. It's because Kyle Shanahan can trust him. And he couldn't trust Jimmy Garoppolo. They still went to a Super Bowl. He sure as hell couldn't trust Trey Lance. Athletically, he couldn't do anything with Nick Mullins. He couldn't trust C.J. Beathard. He couldn't Brian Hoyer, I'm sure he could trust. What are you going to do with that? There is a combination of the two things, but it starts with trust. And not every quarterback Kyle Shanahan's had, he can just trust. The ones that he can trust and have a little something, they just happen to win the MVP, right? And we'll see what happens with Brock Purdy. But I should note, he has more MVP votes in his career than Russell Wilson ever had.
Wow. Speaking of Purdy's relationship with Kyle Shanahan, he went on the game and he said, he's talking about his relationship with Shanahan. It says, hearing him tell me that he's got my back and he's in it with me for the long haul, and we want to do it together. We want to win together. And so to me, that means a lot. I know he's got my back and I've got his. This has
got your back energy over the last couple of days from Brock.
I know. Yeah. A lot of
what's going on there? They really think 26 or 25 is going to suck because they're like, don't worry, whatever happens, I got your back.
I got your back. Purdy was asked on KNBR by Murph if he's a top 10 quarterback, and he said, yes, sir, which is the right answer.
Yeah.
And I think he is. I have him. Sometimes I have him 8, sometimes I have him 12, but I would say a good place to, if you're trying to stay on solid ground with Brock Purdy, you could probably say, is he an elite quarterback? No, but is he a top 10 quarterback? Yes.
Sure.
That's how I see it.
He is unquestionably a quarterback who deserved the contract that he was just given. And if that makes him a top 10 or a top 15, whatever, I know this. He can win you football games. And the cost of competency goes up every year. And he is unquestionably a competent quarterback who I think can be the spearhead of a team that goes to the playoffs. It can be the Brock Purdy show for the 49ers in 2025. And it feels like nothing's working around him. He's got a couple good players, but it's the Brock Purdy show, and he's out here putting on, a borderline MVP caliber season, because you're not going to win the MVP unless you get 12 or 13 wins, and they're probably not going to do that. But it can be the Brock Purdy show, and they can make the playoffs. Not that many quarterbacks I can say the same about, all things considered, and some of them happen to be in the class of Brock Purdy when it comes to pay. So top 10, top 5, top 8, top 15, who gives a shit? He can win football games for you. And that's the – I repeat, now that we're kind of on the back end of it, I'm running out of a lot of my tropes, but I do want to, for one last time, for old time's sake, Larry, remind everybody, what's the alternative to not paying Brock Purdy? What were you going to do?
Mac
there?
Jones and Shedeur Sanders, according to Grant the other day, he was going, and you know what? I understand the rookie quarterback angle, but I think to just say that, I don't think it pays enough respect to the difficulty of finding a rookie quarterback that can actually win games on a rookie contract.
You can
find rookie quarterbacks
for 10 years that can't win games. What are you going to do with just some random kid? The idea that Brock Purdy isn't the football god's gift to Kyle and John is insulting to Purdy. Right? Like what Brock Purdy, the idea, Brock Purdy, you just found him at the last pick and he shows up and you go to the NFC Championship. You might even beat the Eagles that year. The next year you go to the Super Bowl and you could do this with anybody. And it's like, no, he's the exception that proves the rule, man, because I'm watching Skylar Thompson play for the Dolphins when they need some wins and he couldn't pull a win out of his ass if you gave him the calipers, man. Like it is so hard to win. Good quarterbacks who make good money can't win in this league. Now, I guess Brock Purdy is part of that, but he wins. He wins football games. I know they won 6 last year. I really do. A couple of those were with him out of it. A couple of those were when that roster was so beaten down it didn't stand a chance. I'm not saying that he's coming off some great year. Clearly his contract reflects that in some way. But the idea that it's just easy to win in the NFL, then why the hell do the Cleveland Browns keep finding new quarterbacks? If it was so goddamn easy, why did the Jaguars always seem to pick in the top 10? And why are the Bears doing this, that, and the other? If it was so easy, how come we know which teams suck and which teams are good before the season starts? Like, it is insulting to the craft. And I loved that Greg Cosell used that term because it's so rarely used in this sort of optimized day and age. The craft of quarterbacking, the craft of pitching, the craft of getting getting to your own shot in the NBA. In the big moments, you want someone who understands the craft of it, can put their own little spin on the rote exercise of performing a position. The idea that you could just do this with anybody, history doesn't bear that out at all, and it's insulting to the craft.
No, and it's just come on. We know that the failure rate on these rookie quarterbacks is through the roof.
Totally.
Couple last ones. 49ers are expected to bring Ethan Waugh back from the Jaguars. He went there with Trent Baalke. He spent 17 years with the Niners, and he's coming back. You got a thought on that?
No. Okay. let me. Okay,
that's fair. Hey, that's fair.
No, former VP of player personnel. I'll say that they need to get more talent into the building as it pertains to the scouting department and player personnel and all of these things, because the worst kept secret in the NFL is that the Niners did not make requisite investments on the scouting side and the personnel side as they were being pilfered year after year by every other team in the league, taking even their low-level guys, and it would just promote, they would just try to keep everything in-house. As well as anybody, the dirty secret of the NFL and the scouting department is it's not really the GM's guys. The GM just sort of inherits a scouting department. Then they can put their spin on it over time. You lose a couple guys, you add a couple guys. You clear house here, you add a couple young guys here. Those are your guys. And so eventually it's yours. But most of the time, you just sort of inherit. Those are the owner's scouts. Those are the owner's personnel guys. They're the guys who are just hanging around. They need as many. It's not necessarily new because Ethan Waugh is an older gentleman, but they need some people from the outside in because they've been losing far more than they've been bringing in, and they've been bringing in really at the lower levels. So anything would help at this point, in my opinion.
Better linebacker when it's all said and done for both Patrick Willis, Fred Warner.
Wow. I'm going to say Patrick Willis.
Fred will pass him in tackles this year. Fred's got 896. Patrick's got 950.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would have gone with Willis.
How about this? How many more seasons of Fred Warner? What does Fred Warner need to do to be a Hall of Famer? Because Patrick Willis is a Hall of Famer. So that's compared
Fred
to
Warner might already be a Hall of Famer.
I don't know if that's the case. I feel like there's got to be another 2 years.
He's going to wind up with 1,000 tackles. He's going to wind up. He's one of only 2 players since 2000 to have 115 or more tackles in each of his first 7 NFL seasons. Roquan Smith being the other. He's one of 3 players since 2021 to go for 130 or more tackles in 4 straight seasons. Roquan and Wagner are the others. I mean, he's a pretty great coverage linebacker. In some ways, he revolutionized the position.
I'll give him that. But I mean, we're talking about.
I'd say he needs 3. I think he needs
Briggs
3 more years. 3 more years at this high level, and he's a lock.
Yeah, Carl Banks isn't in the Hall of Fame. I'm just looking.
Totally different player, but I mean,
I know.
He was a very good player. Carl Banks was a very good player.
Yeah, it's really tough because linebacker, and specifically this is outside.
Who was the other guy you named?
Lance Briggs, great off-ball linebacker.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, this
player.
Guy.
I don't think Lance Briggs is a Hall of Famer.
No,
so
he's not.
You're looking at I'm looking at just the HOFM, the Hall of Fame monitor score on Pro Football Reference, which with a grain of salt, right? Okay, but they're saying that Fred Warner is in the same ilk as Levante David and Clay Matthews and the other Clay Matthews and Ken Norton Jr. and Lance Briggs, and none of those guys are Hall of Famers. Now, Dave Wilcox,
I mean, it's borderline. It's borderline.
It's borderline right now. I think another 2 years, it's kind of 2 more
I thought
years.
Willis was borderline, to be honest. I mean,
He took him forever, right?
Yeah. I mean, he was better. He just got hurt.
And that's my concern with
Fred. He was the best.
I think if you can give me 2 more, just Pro Bowl seasons from Fred Warner, I'm not even asking for the All-Pro. I feel like that's enough to get him over the hump. But when it comes to that injury last year is pretty concerning. And I know the Niners just gave him the money and they feel good about it. But this is the physicality. He's always going to be a smaller linebacker. I know that, the linebacker position's getting smaller, and he's not small by Nick Martin standards, but he's an outside linebacker, former safety that they've now converted. He's not coming in here at, 260 and lining it up that's just not what we do anymore. But still, that's offensive linemen aren't getting any smaller. And it's not a guarantee right now. We got to talk about guys like, Bobby Wagner and Luke Kuechly. Those guys are Hall of Famers. Navarro Bowman's not in the Hall of Fame, though. And Navarro Bowman is arguably a better middle linebacker than Fred Warner, arguably.
Which contract is the one that the Niners are most likely to regret out of the 3? Out of Kittle, Warner, and Purdy. Which is the one they're going to regret? I would say it's going to be Warner.
It's not Purdy. It could be Warner. Kittle is the one that yells at me. Because the Kittle number, I don't have the number in front of me. I apologize. But the Kittle number feels like it's kind of tricky to get out of. Yeah, you're asking him to maintain this level of play for 2 more seasons at the minimum. And then maybe you can get out of this going into 27. You're talking about, can he get to age 35 and then you're in the clear? This will certainly be the last contract they give George Kittle. But when you think about the amount of injuries that he's had, right, none of which necessarily are on the injury report, but he missed 2 games last year. He missed 2 games the year before that, if I recall correctly. And he's always had this shoulder thing. He's playing with a brace. He's toughed out a lot of stuff, and all the credit in the world for him. He's a brilliant football player, and himself maybe just a couple of years away from serious Canton recognition. But my concern is that wear and tear, especially when you consider the offensive line play and what they ask him to do as a blocker, that could really burn him. Whereas with Fred, Yeah, it could be a problem. I don't think the injuries are something to scoff over, but I think that contract, if I've heard that the new details are correct, it's kind of like 2 years and they can get out of that thing. So it won't be as painful. And Fred's a little younger, and Fred doesn't have as much wear and tear on the body as Kittle. So I'll go Kittle over Fred, but I think Fred's a good option. And it's nice to say that Purdy isn't that contract, right? Like, isn't that nice?
Hopefully Fred stays healthy. I think Fred's the guy that maybe has already played his best ball. We'll see. Coach Yak has this one, the tush push. Jed York was tired of listening to Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie talk for an hour on why the tush push should stay. An hour had passed when San Francisco owner Jed York asked Lurie how much more shit he needed to say. There were a few scattered laughs, but the room was quiet and tense. Goodell then adjourned to the privilege session, which is attended by owners and top league executives. The ban failed by a vote of 22-10, falling 2 votes shy of the 24 needed to ban it. It had to get 24-8. Instead, it was 22-10, and so the tush push remains. Give me your thoughts on the tush push. I mean, I've got all kinds of thoughts on this, but what's your thought on it?
I have no problem with the play. I think that they're banning it for strictly aesthetic reasons, and I understand why the NFL wants to do stuff like that. I understand that this is a commercial entertainment product, so you want to have an aesthetically pleasing product, but at a certain point, and that there is a competitive disadvantage for a defense. But litigating something out almost expressly stated for the reasons of it's too hard to stop is bullshit. And I agree that's too hard to stop, and I don't think it's going to get any easier to stop, but I've seen a lot of teams not execute it well. So the idea that this is some unstoppable play, yeah, when executed properly. Most stuff in sports, when executed properly, is very difficult to stop. That's kind of the whole goal of the professional level.
What year did the rule change? Because there was a rule on the books where you could not push an offensive player.
Yeah,
you couldn't carry an offensive player. Yeah. You couldn't push an offensive player. There's a rule on the books right now that says that you cannot run up the back of the kick block unit and vault yourself into the air to try to block a field goal. But you never know. I mean, I'll say this: it would be a tremendously exciting play to see it, and it makes you wonder: will they ever allow that? But I mean, they don't allow you to vault yourself over offensive linemen running up their back. It seems so not football to allow a player to be pushed into the end zone. And it also seems like, I mean, we're talking about men here, so there's no real concern about health, but it does seem kind of dangerous to use one person's body as like an object, and you're just pushing. They're not
Isn't
really
that inherently the concept of blocking, Larry?
I guess, but
listen, it is not an aesthetically pleasing play. I do have an issue. I think if they wanted to ban it, there were a lot defter ways of going about it than this broad strokes banning, right? You take away elements of it so that it is not as effective anymore. Like, you cannot push a quarterback. You can't Matt Leinart Reggie Bush him. Right.
There was something about a rules change about onside kicks where now you have to announce you're going to do the surprise element of the onside kick is gone. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Change some element of the play so that like the onside kick, the whole deal with the onside kick is to catch somebody by surprise. So if you're going to have to line up a yard further back and you're going to basically.
And not just that, then they took away the overloading on a side, right? They're doing stuff in the name of player safety, right? So I think the NFL can act unilaterally in the name of player safety. So just if you want to get rid of the tush push, if you're the NFL, just find an argument for player safety, which is
concussions.
Exactly. And you could make the argument of, okay, that's fine. I can't stop you from blocking on the offensive line that way, but I can stop you from having a running back consistently pushing someone into a pile. And I'm certain, I don't know for I don't know for a fact, but I would. How about this? How about to more accurately state? Uh, I feel strongly that if I were to go through the NFL rule book right now, there would be certain protections against pushing of players and such. Right, there are certain things that you can't do with your own guys. I would,
or just how about how long is a play supposed to exist? Because really, the tush push is really, it's not about the play. It's about the officiating of the play. Because the average running play, you run and then you get stopped and whatever. I don't know because I've never looked it up. But the average time of an average NFL running play is a few seconds.
Right.
But then the tush push, you get that initial surge, and then they don't blow the whistle.
Right.
And so then you get a secondary surge.
They're still moving.
And then you get a third surge sometimes, or a fourth surge, and the play could go 10 or 12 seconds, which is far longer. So I guess the average play. I guess my question would be, I'm okay with an initial quarterback sneak, but I will say this: if anybody ever perfected this play and could get 4 or 5 yards, they would have to ban it because it would kill the viewership.
It would be rugby, which is inherently what the sport of football is not wanting to be.
Right. It's terrible to watch.
Well, yeah.
For the aesthetics. I mean, just think about it. Think about if there was a team that could no huddle, tush push from their own goal line for all the way down the field.
Yeah.
And it could take an enormous amount of time. It could be very uninteresting to watch. And immediately the TV partners would be like, nope, ban that.
Well, here's just a silly idea that just popped into my head. You want to ban it. There's, I think, a pretty novel way of banning it. You can run it all you want, but it's not going to work out very well for you. What if you were to push a ball carrier on your own team? That is then where forward progress is established. So there's no benefit to doing the actual push. Now, if a quarterback wants to try to sneak around, which Purdy does all the time, Tom Brady was incredible at it, right? Like, get the snap count, dive forward into the A gap. Like, if they want to run that, that's cool. That's different. But this idea of the pile of men, everybody getting low, and then the running back and or the H-back getting in there and just pushing the quarterback who holds on to the ball. If you were to say, hey, you can push all you want, but the moment that contact is made, that we have determined it to be a push of your own team, that is where forward progress is established. So I don't know why you would do it, seeing as that's typically going to be behind the line of scrimmage, but it effectively would nullify the play and then turn it into, hey, if you just want to run it as a quarterback sneak, fair game. But that's a different play than the one that they're running, which is the massive humanity slowly creeping forward. That would be a way to do it, which, again, I watch a lot of rugby. Like, those scrums are regulated in terms of there's an offsides, there's a getting too low too soon. They have a lot of ways so that the game doesn't devolve into just scrum on scrum on scrum. When you watch a really dominant team, if you get New Zealand playing, I don't know, the islands of Micronesia, and it's just a dominant performance, they will stay in scrum the whole time. They will move the scrum all the way to the try line. They don't have to, but they can. And so there are a lot of rules in place to effectively break up scrums. This would be one of them. I think it would be somewhat novel, and it might even already be on the books. They just need to call it as such. So thank you for the food for thought, Larry. I'm going to now find a way to ban the tush push back doors. We're going to go full paralegal on this thing and finally make my dad proud.
Two last thoughts, or one last Niner thought. If you could add one player to the mix to help them win this year, that's reasonable. Not like, hey, Mahomes.
Yeah, I was about to be like, are you familiar with Tyreek Hill?
Mahomes. But, I mean, somebody that's gettable, that's actually gettable. Is there anybody out there, free agent, trade, minor trade, that you would go after? Shamar Stewart hasn't signed his contract. He's available.
Bengals, classic.
Maybe the Niners dodged a bullet there. Who knows?
No,
Sounds like Shamar Stewart might be kind of crazy.
No, Shamar Stewart's actually arguing over like offset language and stuff. There's very few things that you can debate in this modern era as it pertains to these contracts, but the Bengals are just such cheap fucks that they will find they're just trying to screw the kid over from the language that all of their other first round picks have gotten in terms of when monies are due and things like that. And this is something the Bengals and the Chargers used to be brutal at this before the NFL basically bankrolled their operation. This is something that cheap owners do to like set a tone to remind everybody like, I own the team. I'm the boss around here. And it's like, you guys suck. Just fuck off. So that's neither here nor there. As much as I don't like Shamar Stewart as a prospect, I think he's in the right here, as far as I've heard. Players that I would go get, I think the Gabe Davis thing is because I've heard that Amari Cooper might just be done. The Gabe Davis thing, if the injuries aren't too significant,
he sure looked done at the end of last year. I don't know if that was
well. Have I told you about the NFL Network double take that I had to do that one time with Amari Cooper, where I'm watching it?
No,
I'm watching. So he gets traded to Buffalo, right? And obviously I covered the Raiders for many years. I know what Amari Cooper looks like. I've talked to Amari Cooper one-on-one half a dozen times. Like I know Amari Cooper, right? And I have NFL Network on in the office. I'm doing some work, and I look over, and I'm like, oh, that's what Ed Oliver looked. I thought Ed Oliver looked different. Like, I thought Ed Oliver had a different face. And then the Chiron comes up, and it's like Amari Cooper. And I'm like, oh, no, Amari Cooper has been eating inflammatory foods at the least. And so that's when you kind of got the idea that maybe Amari Cooper's full mind wasn't in the ball game anymore. He just looked bloated. He just looked super bloated. And I'm like, I know what Amari Cooper looks like, and I know what a good wide receiver should look like. And those two things have not aligned on this one. So best of luck to Amari Cooper. All-time great dude. Legitimately awesome guy. But it does seem like he's just kind of done. And the tape shows it as well. So
who would be your one guy?
I mean, this is the Gabe Davis concept, I think, really works. I think that is the exact kind of player that they need. Should I go bigger game hunting? You bet your ass. But I was not prepared for this question, Larry. So I don't even know who's available via trade right now. I'm sure you got a bunch of names for me, and I'm sure they're going to be awesome.
Oh, but I don't have a bunch of names. I was just thinking, I've mentioned this guy a couple times, is that there was an article this week that I read out of New York just saying that, the Jets are just loving Arian Smith, the Georgia kid, and they love Arian Smith, and obviously he's their brand new regime, their new GM, and obviously Aaron Glenn. They just brought this kid in, but the article was like an article that was adjoined to the Jets Locked On show, and they were just basically arguing that when you look at the Jets wide receiving core, they have Garrett Wilson. They signed Josh Reynolds, who they love, supposedly. They have Alan Lazard. They signed Tyler Johnson, and they really like him. Mm-hmm. They drafted, or they signed after the draft. No, they took him in the 4th round, Arian Smith from Georgia. So that's 5 receivers.
I'm looking at an article on Arian Smith, and it's like, Arian Smith looked like an all-pro in his first practice with the team, and this is why I can't take the Jets seriously.
Well, but then there's also Xavier Gibson, who's a very, very accomplished special team return guy.
Yes.
So he's probably going to make it. And then they also have Jamal Pritchett from South Alabama, who's, very intriguing guy. So the article was basically like, hey, Arian Smith and the Jets receiving core is so deep now that they're going to wind up cutting or trading Malachi Corley. Well, so then I looked up Malachi Corley, and I realized that Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh traded up in the 3rd round in the 24 draft for Malachi Corley. Malachi Corley only got 6 targets his rookie year, 3 catches for like 15 yards. He also downed a touchdown, a would-be touchdown, at the 1-yard line, which obviously brought a lot of brought a lot of Jets fans' anger out. But I kind of look at Malachi Corley without Debo, who is the guy who is most compared to Debo. I kind of like the idea of trying to trade a 26 draft choice for Malachi Corley. I think Malachi Corley would be, in year 2, but he would give them another weapon who's dynamic. I don't know how dynamic, but the price would be right. And I would love to see the Niners get a guy like Malachi Corley as the final piece to the puzzle at their wide receiver core, and then let's find out. Let's see between Isaiah Bergen and Isaiah Nayer and Corley and these guys. Let's find out. Let's have a real competition with some real prospects, and let's see who makes it. I think Corley might make the team, and I think he might be a nice receiver for the team that gets him. And this is where you get value in the NFL,
Right.
is when there's regimes that change and teams are willing to be like, hey, I didn't draft that kid. He was a third-round pick, but he wasn't my third-round pick.
Right.
So I'll trade you Malachi Corley for, a fourth and a sixth in the future because, you know what? I didn't invest the third. So that would be the guy I'd try to get because I think he's kind of intriguing.
Yeah, listen, I wasn't the biggest fan of him coming out. I found those Debo comparisons to be completely laughable. But
Yeah.
if he doesn't cost you anything, this is what I'm saying. Like, if you can take a late day 3 pick, you got comp picks coming, all this stuff. Like,
why not?
If you feel strongly about somebody, you liked him, just because I didn't like him doesn't mean they didn't like him, right?
I mean, Saleh clearly liked him. So if Saleh likes him that much,
Saleh would know. Saleh would know if he can play or not because he got the
Aaron Rodgers
all last year.
Liked him for a while. I don't know. I remember exactly what happened.
Aaron
Lots of
Rodgers
rookie
still
receivers.
play?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Well, I don't know if I told you, but my buddy Jay Cornegay told me that the over-under on the Niners in Vegas is 10, but if they replace Purdy with Rodgers, it would drop to 9.5.
Oh, totally
so I thought that was kind of interesting. 2 last ones on the Giant front. What do you make? I mean, the Giants are so bad offensively.
Right.
They got to get some offensive help. They put Hicks in the bullpen. I think their pitching's been really much better than most people thought. Now Wisenhunt's in the minor leagues, so they may not even really need that big-time arm because they got their best arm, who looks like he's ready to roll, but they obviously need a bat. And they need a first baseman. God, they need a first baseman. I mean, I would love to see them get that Kansas City kid who hit one to the moon the other day, Pasquantino or whatever.
I think Vinny Pasquantino would be an awesome. So they have.
That'd be a great get for them.
Jack Caglione
who's a number 1 pick,
now.
right?
He's unbelievable. He's going to be so good.
Really?
And Pasquantino, he had some injury. He's
got big power, man. He hit that one out.
He's been dragging, though. He's like a sub 300. Like, that's a good change of scenery guy. Wouldn't hurt to have a nice left-handed power bat on this team, man. Wouldn't hurt to have a right-handed power bat either. I think that they are going to bank on Gerard Encarnacion fixing.
Ugh.
Well, I'm telling you, that's what I was just there yesterday.
Yeah, no, I know. I think you're right.
This is what they were. This is what they were about. I'm concerned because they got off to this great start, and you go, how are they doing it? And it's like, who really gives a shit? It's a nice little start, and they're 10 games above 500, and they're keeping pace. And I thought yesterday,
but Buster's got to make a deal. I mean, my goodness, what are they waiting on?
Well,
what are they waiting on?
Well, I mean, the last deal.
Do you know, somebody had it in the chat. Well. The Giants are got off to a hot start. They're 500 in the last 35 games.
Totally. Because they're a 500 baseball team. They don't know any different. And it is you get a couple of injuries and then suddenly you look at the roster and you go what are we doing here? Right? We're playing David Villar again. What are we doing? It goes back to something I kept saying this offseason. Buster didn't actually do anything. He got Willie Adames. That's working out fucking fantastic, by the way. He's 12 points worse than the average major league shortstop, and he's the worst defensive shortstop in baseball, but you only got 6 more years, so what's the problem there? He gave Matt Chapman all this money. He can't hit a high fastball to save his life. And then, Justin Verlander was his big flash free agent signing with pitching, which I guess don't go that hard in on pitching because you do have good.
He's been
arms.
fine. They just don't score any runs.
Well, now he's on the IL, so you can't even rely on him to go out there and give you the 5 innings, which is kind of what you were looking for. You were looking for somewhat of a steady Eddie, even if it wasn't spectacular. I don't care that he doesn't have wins. What I care about is he can't pitch because he's injured, because he's 43 years old. And that's what happens when you've pitched in the major leagues for 20 straight years. Your body disintegrates into nothing. And so they need to make the move. The issue comes back to, once again, they don't have the assets to make a move with. So I think that they just have to wallow in this mediocrity. And I thought yesterday was a really disappointing game for them because that was the kind of game where you need Webb, who had been unbelievable, save for one start. 10 out of his 11 starts going into yesterday afternoon's game had just been unbelievable. He'd taken it to a whole different level. He was like legitimately, arguably the best pitcher in baseball this season. And he just laid an absolutely couldn't locate his sweeper, and he's going back to the changeup, and they're just sitting sinker on him and just pounding him for 10 hits and 11 hard hit balls. And it's just like, I might have turned back into the old Logan Webb, which is a hell of a pitcher, but more of a steady Eddie than a Cy Young contender in earnest. And if you don't have that, you got Robbie Ray, who's a good number 2. You don't have a number 3. You are winging it at 4 and 5. You have an offense that can't hit lefties. You have an offense that can barely hit righties, and you got a shitty defense. But hey, you got a great bullpen. Like, it is Farhan Zaidi 2.0, man. And Buster gets a longer window, but this is why it was frustrating when he didn't make any big moves to say, hey, we're changing things up. He just went in there. He's like, I believe in you guys. And it's like, you know who doesn't believe in the roster that Farhan Zaidi put together? Anyone who has watched Giants baseball since the year 2021. We're over it. Like, good luck to all those guys. Maybe they get jobs somewhere else in baseball, like in Major League Baseball. I'm not saying they're not major leaguers, but we need them somewhere else. I like Mike Yastrzemski. He's a great guy, and I think he's a Major League Baseball outfielder. He should be starting for somebody. I want him starting for another team. They should have DFA'd him. They should have just non-tendered him and just said, hey, it's not personal. We just need something different. We need to move on. We need to do something different here. They didn't do anything different this past offseason, and they're not getting anything different as a result. And it's a little bit concerning because I don't know if I can do another mediocre offseason, and I'm gone all summer, Larry. I'm not even working this summer. Well, I don't have to experience it.
They need more bat. They need another bat. I mean, my God, they're just not a good offensive team. They're a good defensive team. They're a good pitching team. They're pretty good. I mean, pretty good defensive team. I mean, they're
pretty below league average in all the major defensive metrics. You got Adames at shortstop. He's god awful. I mean, Chapman is
Chapman's the best at third. I mean,
I don't know if he is anymore. Like, Chapman has had a lot more errors this year, and
the catcher is great defensively.
It's great because he can't hit.
They got a really good outfield defense. I mean, they're pretty good defensively. I'm not going to bang on them defensively. They can't hit.
Buy in on that.
They can't hit. I mean, they really can't hit at home and at night. Last one. The NBA draft is coming up.
Yeah.
Warriors have Kuminga. Warriors have a second-round pick. Warrior fans are thinking big.
Of course.
The draft combine, obviously Cooper Flagg's going 1. Warriors don't even have a first-round pick. Warriors have a second-round pick, but they also have Kuminga to move, and there's a lot of talk that Brooklyn wants him. Brooklyn has an awful lot of picks. So, I mean, if the Warriors wanted to somehow trade Kuminga for, Brooklyn picks, Brooklyn's got the 8th pick. They got the 19th pick. They got the 26th pick. They got the 27th pick. They've got the 36th pick. I mean, they've got it in the second round. Warriors do have a second-round pick. I think it's 41. Tankathon says they're going to take Drake Powell out of North Carolina. That wouldn't be bad. I like Drake Powell.
Yeah. Whatever.
But I'll tell you, I have watched some of this combine, and I love the Stanford center, Maxime Reynaud.
Interesting.
And this guy is a 7'1" kid. He's pretty passionate. He's from France. Yeah. He averaged almost 22 points and almost 12 rebounds at Stanford this year. He's got a nice Quentin Post outside shot. Okay. And he's got some fire, and he's got some speed. He's got some jumping ability. He's got some athleticism. I love this kid, man. Maxime Reynaud. They're projected. He's projected to go 27th in the first round on Tankathon. There's other guys I really like though in this draft. I mean, I kind of like Tahad Pettiford from Auburn. I kind of like Drake Powell. I kind of like the kid from Arizona, Love, who started at Carolina.
No,
and I love this Eric Dixon from Villanova, the power forward who's. He's built like a Draymond Green. He's 6'8", 260, but the guy's got offensive game. He averages 24 points a game. Mm-hmm. He's a shooter. So, but I really love this Maxime Raynaud.
Maxime Raynaud.
Is there anybody in this draft? I mean, what do you think the Warriors are going to do with Kuminga? What's going to happen here? I mean, I know the Warriors want to go older because Steph and this and that, but I looking at this draft, I think there's some really intriguing players. And if I were them, I'd go young. I'd screw it. Who cares? You're not winning crap anyway. You're not gonna be able to sell out and get the kind of players to make you any kind of a favorite. So you might as well just try to keep building and go young. See if you can take a couple flyers and some second round picks, and see if you can get lucky the way you did with Draymond Green. I mean, if you land a couple good players in the second round, you might be able to get lucky. I mean, I don't see what their plan's going to be that's any better than that.
I don't know why the plan is maybe you can get lucky with young guys and you wouldn't just try to get lucky with the old guys that you have. If you're trying to get lucky, at least do it with the guys you already know.
But at least the young guys, there's upside. Like, Draymond Green was a second
round each,
But Trace Jackson Davis was a great second round pick. I mean, Jokic was freaking the MVP of the league, and he was a second round pick. I mean, the NBA draft used to be, 60 deep, and the best 18 players went in the top 20 picks, and there was very known. And if you didn't have one of those 20 picks, you were just screwed. Right. Now it's such a projectable kind of a deal.
Well, it's because everybody's 18 years old or 24.
Right, and it's a little less because of the NIL, but it's still very. You got a lot of really raw players.
They're either in as soon as they can be, or they hung out as long as they could.
So if you can find a good player in the second round, you know what? I mean, I'm looking at this thing right now. They have Eric Dixon from Villanova going 57. That's a nice pick at 57, man.
I mean, I'll tell you the player right now that I know
who do you like?
They love. Well, I don't think he's getting anywhere near him at 41. But manna from heaven for them would be Danny Wolf, the center out of Michigan, who is a sweet passing center. That's the Steve Kerr dream. We're running it through the high post again, baby. We're going Bogut on this bad boy. And obviously comes from a great operation at Michigan. That would be their guy. As for Kuminga, I think that people are dramatically underestimating how much politics run the Golden State Warriors and how Joe Lacob's opinions carry serious weight in basketball operations and have to be managed, to say the least. Joe Lacob loves Jonathan Kuminga. One of the funniest things that happened
day after where they're sitting courtside together.
Well, that was great. But, I mean, even before
that. Valkyries game.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And I'm sure Jonathan Kuminga just loves hanging out with Joe Lacob. I mean, those two are two peas in a pod.
Oh, yeah, those guys. To be a sitcom.
So much to talk about. And, Joe, where the bitch is at? Actually, that's the opposite of Kuminga. Joe is probably more into that game. Regardless, it is when Kuminga was going off, I believe it was game 5. First half of game 5. It was either game 2 or game 5 of the Timberwolves series. And Kuminga had a great first half. Unbelievable first half. And they were shooting on your TV, the left side. And Lacob was sitting on the left side of the court near the camera, on the camera side of it. And every time Kuminga got the ball, Lacob got out of his seat. Every time. No other player. But when Kuminga got the ball, and by the way, when Kuminga gets the ball, it's great because he gives Joe time to get up out of his seat because that ball ain't going anywhere once Kuminga gets it. That ball's locked in place. And Joe would stand up and he would just go, yes, like this is my moment. Joe's not letting that guy leave for free. Joe's not really interested in trading that guy. The other thing that needs to be noted here is not only does Joe love Jonathan Kuminga, and by the way, like the reason that we still have Bob Fitzgerald as the day play-by-play guy, despite the fact that he's consistently voted the worst play-by-play guy, though he is an actually exceptional play-by-play guy, but the homerism is over the top, is because that's how Joe wants it, and Joe owns the team, and so he's broadcasting for an audience of one. It's not me or you or anybody else. It's for Joe, and that's how Joe wants to hear the game. He wants to be told that everything's going great. Okay, that's fine. That's his prerogative. We all have to suffer. regardless, Joe's not going to want to get rid of Jonathan Kuminga because the other aspect of this, which I do think is completely underrated, is the Warriors ownership group and front office is petrified of what happens next. They are so afraid of what happens when Steph Curry is gone that they have, for the last 5 years, tried to reinforce themselves so that they have a little something, so that I know that they have the mortgage on tickets and things like that, but they are petrified of what happens to the bottom line if there is not Steph Curry to sell, the number one selling asset in all of professional sports right now. So the idea of just getting
go young, man.
But
Go
you
find
have to
guys.
win games when you're young. That's the problem with going young.
Go find guys. Keep building, man.
You
don't
think
stop.
that they
Don't
can
ever
just
stop
go
building.
Find guys.
Well, I mean, look at the Spurs. The Spurs found Kawhi. I
mean,
mean, it's like keep trying. You've never arrived. Keep trying to add.
Spurs haven't made the playoffs in 5 years, right?
But they're building.
They're building, yeah. Well, and thank God the lottery balls went their way.
But I mean, the Warriors. I mean, I've seen the options of people talking about free agents. There is no free agent. And only way the Warriors are going to be relevant in any kind of title thing is if Giannis decides that he wants to be with them.
There's another name that you were missing who would fundamentally change the Golden State Warriors.
Go ahead,
Drew Holiday.
Come on, man.
Oh,
they're not winning.
You fucking kidding me? If you have Drew Holiday on the perimeter and Draymond Green on the interior, you think anyone's getting 120?
How old's he's old.
That's why you can get him. Put together the Expendables, baby. Let's do this one last ride.
They got. Oh,
great!
Younger.
So we can watch Jonathan Kuminga try to figure it out.
They just got. It doesn't have to be Jonathan Kuminga, but you got to find some younger guys. I mean, you got to find some younger guys. You got to play your younger guys. And if you don't want to play Kuminga, then move them. But you got to find younger guys. You got to take some chances on some younger guys.
That's a good idea, and that's the problem. They can't commit to one way or another because they're afraid of what happens if they commit one way or another. They're afraid of what happens if they go young.
If they don't, they just. I know what you're saying. But it's like it's crazy because their greatest fears will be realized if they just keep doing what they're doing.
One way or another, but they'll make a shit ton of money between now and then.
I think they ought to consider moving off of Jimmy and seeing if they could find another direction. But sounds like
that's a fun sell low right there, given what Jimmy just put out there.
I know, but I'll say this. I mean, I think Kuminga's got to go at this point because I mean, either Kuminga's got to go or Kerr's got to go. Or
I'm with you.
You know,
I agree with that. That comes across as a hot take, but like the two do not want to work together anymore. So Joe Lacob's going to have to make a decision. You know who Joe Lacob's going to pick?
You think he's going to go with Kuminga? No, he's going to go with.
I think that Joe Lacob will go with Kuminga, and he'll have to be talked out of it.
Wow.
That would be my bet because you could always replace a coach, baby, but you can't replace a player like Jonathan Kuminga.
He's gonna go. You know, Sai's gonna get his way, and Joe's gonna side with Sai and Kuminga. Well, I don't think so. I think he's gonna side with. I think he's gonna side with Kerr, and he'll move Kuminga. And I just think that you got to remember this. You got to remember this. Everybody looked at that the other night and said, "Oh, Kuminga ain't going anywhere." You got to remember this. Either Kuminga's going to stay or Kuminga's going to go. Mm-hmm. And if Kuminga's going to go, the only way the Warriors are going to be okay is if it's a sign and trade.
That's right.
So
he's getting
there's all kinds of incentive in the world for Joe to buddy up with Kuminga because he's going to either need Kuminga to be his centerpiece of the future in this post-Kerr, post-Steph era. And he's going to – I saw Marcus Thompson on with Tolbert on Tolbert's YouTube channel, and Marcus Thompson's like he's going to have to sell Jonathan Kuminga on the long-term view, like the 10-year vision. Okay, there's that. Or he's going to need him to play ball on a sign and trade. And I think that's what's going to happen. And I think that's why he's cozying up to him because I think he's going to cozy up to him, get Jonathan out of the kindness of his heart to agree to a sign and trade. I think it'll probably be similar. You know, you could go sign there for X or you could go sign and trade for Y. Well, and I think those X and Y's could be very similar.
No one can give as much money as the Warriors.
No, I know,
one can
but
pay him as much.
but you also, you got to figure if you're going to work a deal, somebody's going to have to pay him on the other end.
No
So
doubt.
I think there'll be a deal involving a player or a couple role players and a pick or two.
Yeah.
And I could see the Warriors throwing players and picks. I could see a deal, but I think he plays ball with the Warriors in a sign and trade scenario.
I'll
and
give
he
you
goes
one
somewhere
last
else.
thing, Larry. Besides the Drew Holiday thing, which is brilliant. And
I love Drew Holiday. I just think he's too old.
Well, yeah.
Another old guy.
Get in line, baby.
Yeah.
Again,
I like him, but
I'm
he's
calling
old.
it the Expendables. And I'm going to stick on that because that's the best point I've had all day. But the other point of this, you think that this is all resolved this summer with Jonathan Kuminga? No. They can just sign him and then say, we'll have better options to trade him at the deadline. Never forget that this team took 18 months to figure out that they needed a number 2. I wrote 18 months worth of columns that I know were being read. I had 18 months of conversations with people in the NBA that I know were filtering up, down, left, right, and sideways because I would get random, a lot of stuff. We'll leave that neither here nor there. 18 months, not just me. I'm certainly not, the tone setter. Me, everybody else who knows what the hell they're talking about. 18 months of, are you going to get a number 2 for Steph? Are you going to get a number 2? It took them 18 months to get a number 2 for Steph Curry. And the only reason they did that is because they started looking at the fan sentiment and realizing, oh, this is kind of all gone to hell. Let's go out there and try to get, I don't know, Kevin Durant.
Time's not on their side at this point.
No, it isn't. But they're going to keep, this is not, again, when they act, everything they do is predicated on fear. So time is on their side if you're just trying to avoid doing hard things and making tough decisions. Time is the only panacea to that problem.
They got to make a decision. Hey,
Watch
JD sent me the list of the first Warrior workouts. Any of these names stand out to you?
Yeah,
Milos Uzan.
Uzan's a good player. Good player.
Milos Uzan from Houston. Kobe Johnson, UCLA.
Yeah.
RJ Luis, St. John's.
Good player.
Nate Biddle, Oregon.
Nope.
Stephen Crowell, Wisconsin.
Stephen Crowell's an interesting one, but I don't think he's an NBA player.
Tamar Bates, Missouri.
Tamar Bates can shoot it, baby. 91%
like Tamar
free throw
Bates?
shooter. Baby, I watch nothing but Missouri basketball. You know I love Tamar Bates.
I got to go watch him. So, of that list, you like Milos Uzan and Tamar Bates?
I don't think Tamar Bates is an NBA player for what it's worth. I think that
none of those names. I've seen Uzan. Uzan's good.
Uzan is a gritty defense first. I mean, Uzan's a good player.
What do you think of my Stanford guy?
I didn't watch much Stanford basketball. I'm not.
I didn't either. I didn't watch any Stanford. I didn't even know the guy played at Stanford until like 2 weeks ago.
I'm looking at his stats. They seem good.
I'm telling you, the guy's got game, man.
Yeah.
He's got game. I kind of like Drake Powell from Carolina too. What do you think of Drake Powell, who's projected to them at 41?
Yeah.
I'll tell you the other guy I kind of like. I kind of like the is he Japanese or Chinese? The center Hansen Yang.
That would be a classic. So I'm looking at the same
He's
Tankathon
7'2" center, but I liked his game. I liked his highlights.
Bloomberg about how he might be the most valuable player is kind of one of those galaxy brain things. But there's
3 blocks a game.
There's no question that that a team on the West Coast is going to take him, hoping for the fiscal windfall that comes from taking a guy out of China who can actually be on your roster. And Hansen Yang is going to either the Lakers, the Clippers, the Blazers, sneaky option, or the Warriors or the Kings. God, that would be such a Vivek pick. Oh, man. He might not be able to help us at all, but imagine how many jerseys he'll sell. He'll help the Golden One Center stay full.
I'm telling you, this guy's got talent. I've seen his shot. His shot's nice.
Hey, listen, he is considered absolutely draftable, if not.
There's no doubt.
So
there's no doubt. I mean, this guy's got game.
He's 7'2".
This guy's got game.
Heaven knows they could use someone who's 7'2".
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you the other big man I like. I like the Michigan guy, Vladislav Golden from Michigan.
I watched.
He looked good in the tourney.
I can't recall Vladislav Golden. He put
gigantic. I mean, 7'1", 265.
the one I don't watch a lot of college basketball outside of Missouri and SEC, but Danny Wolf is somebody that I do. I really like Danny Wolf. I think that
He's
is
got
like,
guard skills.
That's what I'm saying. He's a sweet passing big man. Like that's the Steve Kerr.
He's kind of a ground bound guy, but they project him 23 overall. He's not bad. I kind of like Walter Clayton from Florida, the point guard.
Walter Clayton is a very good basketball player. He's very good. We can just keep naming guys. Let me see.
Todd Pettiford from Auburn is a nice little player too. The freshman, the 19-year-old freshman.
I try to get the younger players on Auburn, seeing as Auburn's average age this year was older than Oklahoma City's. And I'm not even half kidding. Yaxel Lendenborg from UAB.
Yes, he looked good. He looked good.
Good player. Either of the Alabama point guards are viable NBA
Sears.
Guys. How high is Sears supposed to go? I don't know.
No, he's not. I mean, he's not. They're saying he may not get drafted at all.
Oh, I'd take Sears late.
I know. I would too. You're talking about a guy. I don't know if you saw the shooting numbers from the combine, but he shot the ball amazing. Sears is a really good shooter.
Peyton Pritchard
man.
And T.J. McConnell can have roles in the NBA, then Sears can have a role in the NBA too. And if I'm the Warriors, I'm trying to buy a late second round pick.
Oh yeah, no question. You know who he reminds me of? Dieter reminds me of. Remember the guy? I forget where he played college. I think his name was Carson Williams, and he played for Boston for a while. He was like a 6-foot point guard, but the guy had, 45 points in games in college.
Yeah.
Short point guard, but he could
Carson
flat
Williams
out shoot.
is the number one Tampa Bay Rays shortstop prospect.
Maybe his name's not Carson Williams. Carson something. Maybe something else Williams.
Little bitty black guy.
Yeah, but kind of like maybe 5'11", 6 feet.
Yeah.
But was a shooter.
Brad Stevens.
Had over 40 points in a couple of different college games. Yeah. I kind of like Caleb Love, who started at Carolina and finished at Arizona.
Yeah, he was unbelievable at Arizona. And he's a great college
he's not
player.
He's not listed in this draft at all. I'll tell you another guy who I thought was really great in the tournament, who's listed as a second-round pick, is Auburn's big man Johnny Broom. Johnny Broom's 6'10", 250, and he averaged 22 and 13 in the SEC. And Johnny Broom is listed as a 35th pick in this. He's listed to go with the Draymond Green pick.
That's wild. That's a
good player.
Yeah, he's 23, but
he's older. But I mean, you're talking about a polished offensive player he's I mean, to me, he looked like a very poor man's, but he looked like kind of a poor man's Karl Anthony Towns.
That's an interesting comp.
Don't you think? I mean,
it's not wrong.
He's got a
he's
got kind of a
shooter.
Game. He's got low post game, but he's got an offensive face up game.
Yeah, but he only shot 27% from beyond the arc. He's a 58% free throw shooter, and that's kind of the bigger tell, right? The free throw shooters. I think Clayton is kind of a dream for the Warriors. They could really use a guy like that. That's kind of the Jordan Poole replacement in Clayton.
He was a hell of a player.
They need, you know what they need? They need good two-way basketball players. I don't know why I'm asking for a Jordan Poole type. They need good two-way basketball players because they sure as hell can't go buy one. Those guys cost enormous sums of money, and Moses Moody had surgery on his UCL.
They need a wing or a big? Bigger need, wing or big? Or do you want a shot creator or you want a shot finisher? What are you looking for?
I want a shot blocker. How about that?
That's not bad either.
It's just legitimately the first time in my, I'm going to date myself here, 12 years of covering the Warriors, that I've been like, oh, they actually do need to get bigger. Like, it is, I know that the game is further out and further out and further. They need to get bigger. They do not have enough size, and Kevon Looney is... The
Alabama kid is a shot blocker. Clifford Omoruyi, 6'11" kid from Nigeria. Who's a major shot blocker.
I'll tell you the guy, this has nothing to do with the Warriors, but the one guy in the draft that I feel really confident is going to exceed his draft position is Kaman Malak, the Duke center, the 7'2" Duke center. He's an unbelievable player. I can't believe that people are talking about him as like the 9th or the 10th pick. Like I might take him too. Like,
I know. He's really, I like Knuppel from Duke.
Yeah.
He's a pretty good shooter. That guy's a pretty smart player. I'll tell you the guy that I really like is Derek Queen from Maryland.
I don't know what Derek Queen is at the NBA level, though. He's an interesting
shooter.
He's
kind of reminds me of Victor Alexander, going back for Warrior fans. I mean, he's a skilled big man who's kind of a fatty. I mean, he's kind of a fat kid. But I mean, we're talking about
He's got a lot going on there.
We're talking. I mean, the guy wore a jacket underneath his jersey. But, I mean, this guy averaged 19 and 10, and he had that unbelievable kiss off the glass in the tourney to go to the Sweet 16.
He knows what he's operating with.
That guy can shoot it. Derek Queen can flat out shoot it.
All right, I'm going to say Danny Wolf one time and then sign off.
All right, that's going to two supers here, or three supers. MSQ, Chicago's O-line is the best run-blocking O-line, not the best pass-protecting O-line. That's why they retooled their O-line so they can give Williams more protection.
Anytime you have the best of something, you want to retool it.
I know, it seems odd. Joseph Ernberg says, Kiner is better than James. Blanton is better than Martin. We want Nair. If Blanton is better than Martin, we got real problems.
We got a real issue. I think Stone Blanton is fine. He might even make the NFL. I'm not a big Nick Martin fan. I think I might be established as the number one not big Nick Martin fan. He is so much better than Stone Blanton. It is laughable.
Yeah, come on. They're not the same guy. Frank Tom Ocean says he's been a member for 15 months. Thanks for the great show, Larry, and all the content. At Dieter, I'm a big fan. What do we have to do to get a Cone and Dieter show? Go Niners.
I will come up with a plan for what needs to be done for me and Grant to do a show together. I love Grant on a personal level. Like, I mean it. He's a great guy. All this. We have, over at the Dieter and Hutch channel, we don't necessarily partake in too much. We try not to do hot takes for hot takes' sake. The hot takes will come, don't get me wrong, but not for hot takes' sake. We're certainly not as prolific as Grant. Maybe this is the marriage that we always needed in our lives. Maybe it won't be. I don't know. But a lot of people have asked, and I'm trying to figure out a way to monetize that. That's where my head's at.
There you go. Danks is Grant would need to grow thicker skin. No, I think Dieter and Grant would be good. We got this one.
Get along great. It's Jake who I'm worried about.
Jordan Esparza. Kuminga will be dealt at the deadline because of base year compensation rule. Can only take back 50% of his sign and
trade salary.
And trade salary.
That is, that might be more of a feature than a bug. But I'm with Jordan in that. Like, I don't think the Warriors feel this need to make the move now. On the basis of what? They wasted a whole 3/4 of a season, and they got Butler and convinced themselves they were in it. They don't care about seeding or anything like that. But ultimately, they are going to have some fiscal issues here. I know that this past year they were tied to the first apron. That's no longer the case. If you add in Kuminga, that gets into really tricky territory as it pertains to luxury tax and how much you got to pay on it. And I don't recall if stuff reset with the new CBA or not. So we'll look into it. But I think getting off some salary is more of a feature than a bug for the Warriors at this point.
That's going to do it for us. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Claudaddy Arcades and LearnKey Upskill Academy for sponsoring this live stream. Thanks to Dieter. Thanks to all of you. And I'm back tomorrow. No stream tomorrow with Damon because he's taking the day off, so we streamed today. So I'll be streaming tomorrow morning at 10:45 with Chase Sr. And Dieter, when do you go live next? When can people check you out next? Or what do you have? Do you have something coming out in the newspaper tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably write about this Kuminga thing. I've been sitting on it long enough. I got some good sourcing on it. And then, Jake and I will have some videos. We just put one up on the Purdy contract. If you want to get even more into the minutia nonsense, you can check that out at Dieter Hutch on YouTube. Please
check it out. Dieter's the best. Thanks to all you guys. Have a great night. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of.